Hey, what's good, people? This is the Option Podcast. This is episode 221, brought to you by NY Varsity Sports. This guy that looks like Ed Keller. We're going to find out. Episode starts. Buckle up, people. Starts right now. There he is. What's up, Ed?
You know, just stoked to be here, Jay. God, we've known each other for so long, and it's such a pleasure to get a chance to finally sit down with you and chat.
Let's get the mic a little bit closer to you.
Yeah, I got you.
This is the second episode in the row. I'm going to sing, I've got to give the people what they want.
Let's do it.
So before we start anything, let's get a little camera 2 on you. Let's play before we got on the podcast, we played a little bit of Let It Be.
Oh, you want me to
Let's
get
do
on
it.
this?
Hell yeah.
Let's see if we can do this.
This is a Zen moment.
It's
on.
Yeah?
You got the full shot, so no worries.
Let's go. Let's do this.
Yep.
Oh, there it is. Is
Perfect.
this coming through?
Yep.
Okay, we'll do it.
Yo.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom.
Let it be.
Yeah, that's good.
Wow, thanks. That's how you start a podcast, people. Right? We got to start with Let It Be, baby.
Let's go back and now
Let me
let's
go
go
on
forward.
my camera. Let me get my icon on, and we are ready. I'm trying to do as much of this in real time so I don't have to edit. There it is.
Love it.
Perfect. And so let's start out the block. Let's start out the block, and wherever it spills, it spills. Let's start with the league, man.
Well, like here's the thing, right? So you're looking at the AVP, and I've been going to AVP tournaments. I mean, not consistent, but my first one was like 93 Manhattan Open. I was in high school playing with Ken Steffes' first cousins, Josh and James Apgar, and they go, hey, let's go visit my cousin in California and watch some volleyball. I go, that sounds fun. So we fly out to Malibu, we hang in the Palisades. We go down to the Manhattan Open 93, and you see this massive, insane event, right? And to me, that was the first time that really sparked my love for beach volleyball. Because I'd been playing a little indoor in high school at the time, and that was it.
Right.
And I go, holy crap. And I don't know how much language I can use on this show.
That's
but
all right. Whatever I don't have to edit out.
Yeah. So I won't go too much. But I'm just saying, when you saw the Manhattan Open, when it had thousands upon thousands of people in the most massive grandstand I've ever seen, and then you go to today and say, you know, things aren't where they were there anymore, obviously. So things are different now. The tournament format is not producing a profitable business for the AVP, apparently, right? And none of us really know the insides, but they spend a lot to set these tournaments up. They're not getting a lot of revenue out of it. So I suppose the idea behind the league was, can we get a low-cost model that we can sell tickets, sell concessions, sell merchandise, put the top players in so every match is a compelling match for fans, put a small bite-sized product together, sell it to TV, and start there so that at the start it's funded, it's profitable, whatever. That I think that's the idea. And there are pros and cons to everything, right? Because back in the day you had 64 team main draws at the Manhattan Open, even sometimes more than that, right?
Right.
And you had these massive tournaments. You saw the young guns coming up trying to play, you know, St. John and Randy are trying to play Karch and Kent or whatever it was. And even if those matches were 15-3 or whatever in the old school scoring, they were still, you know, people would line up to watch that. Today, you know, I guess the fan base is different. The world is different. It seems like there's something else going on because the tournaments haven't had that energy that they used to, apparently, according to the management of the AVP, right? Which changes every couple of years anyway.
Right, yeah.
Right, so here we are, and this league happens. Now, top teams and players are like, wow, you're paying me $20,000 to play 8 matches that only last a half an hour each? I'm in, right?
Yeah.
Top players are like, this is easy for me because I'm getting money to do almost nothing, and that's great. But what is it going to do to the sport? What's the ripple effect on the sport? And that's kind of what I've been chatting with a lot of my friends about, thinking about what's going to happen to the guy or girl who's not in that top 8. You know, now what's your motivation to keep training through this winter? What opportunity is there for you unless you have international aspirations, right? So that, I don't know, Jay, what do you think about? That's my main
Well,
idea.
first, allow me. You did a fantastic chronology, the leading to Manhattan Beach, what it's come in the transitions and the generations, because you've been there for a long time. You've been there so long, even old school is like, damn. What set you from, bro? So, I'd like to start from present to past.
Yeah.
I would like to talk about the league. I really like the format, and I like the way the setup is, and I like that they have home teams for the players. You know why? Because now fans are emotionally invested in a certain player that shows up to represent their city, and then the respect is going to go back and forth. It's mutual, right? Of course, between you and I, we would like to see the improvement of people playing in their city, right? Which is going to be expensive, but at the same time, if you say you're going to put all your chips on the table, you got to do that. Don't bleed your chips and to this inevitable path of failure.
Yeah.
Right. Don't kick the can down the road until
That's right.
until there's a hill and the can ain't got nowhere to go except in the river and down the waterfall.
Yeah.
Put all of your chips on the table, and that means home teams for everybody. That's the only thing. So I'm gonna get rid of the haterade. And Aaron Wexler's commenting. We're gonna get his question. He actually typed a question.
Let's go,
But we see you, Aaron. But when Aaron asked me, he was waiting for the haterade because I'm a hater by nature. And when I said I love it, he went, oh.
No, I know, and it's weird because I love it too, you know. And most people thought I wasn't gonna love the league. Most of my old school friends go, "Wait, you love it?" So you and I are on the same.
So if we're talking glass half full here,
Yeah.
the idea and the format is good.
Yeah.
And now I'm gonna go backwards.
Okay.
Here's where it failed. Right at the end of the day, you can do this. You can have a tournament. You can have this. You can have that. But the net result is butts and seats. Butts and seats.
Right.
If it's crowded enough, a sponsor's like, you know what? Don't charge your people for tickets. They come for free, right? I'll give you a classic example,
Okay.
and I really don't like using Casey and Kerry because every time you use the word Kerry, that's like saying Candyman 3 times, and he's knocking at your door like he could fight or something, like he about that life. No, mad love, Casey, love you because if it wasn't for you, there was no me. You know, he's one of those people. But I wanted to say FIVB Vegas.
Yeah.
I was calling court 5. You had this huge center court. You got the top teams to come. Mull and Sorum were still the top seed, like Qatar before they were Qatar.
Yeah.
The Grimalts were there. I had the pleasure of calling Wilkerson and Bansley against Larson at the time, Stockman and whatever.
That was
all the courts were shut down,
matches.
so everyone came to my court, and it was like my chance to shine as a commentator. So that was my coming out party, and there was a live stage, there was a live band, and you can finish this sentence for me.
And there were 30 people watching the finals, right? And I loved the idea of the event. I was there, I was supporting, and Casey and Kerry definitely were passionate about what they were doing.
Right.
But like you said, butts in the seats is going to make or break these type of leagues that are relative.
It was the best thing that I've ever seen that no one else saw.
It was crazy to me, actually.
And I can't. Casey, salute to you how you guys put that together.
Dude.
You know.
And I love Casey.
Yeah,
Casey's the man, and he's got the passion and I mean the energy, and he's one of the greatest players ever. And Kerry, obviously the GOAT on the women's side. So you go, okay, they know what they're doing, and Dave Mays, who put a lot of the funding in, one of Casey's fraternity brothers from college, right?
Okay,
and so They had the plan, they had everything, but for some reason, it just didn't work, and that's hard to figure out sometimes.
Yeah,
right?
and Casey, again, I can't emphasize enough because it sounds like I'm being a big critic here. No, if it wasn't for Casey, there's no podcast. Casey, let me borrow on loaner podcast equipment.
Wow.
For my first 10 episodes, including him. He was on episode 7.
Unbelievable.
So he's coming, putting his star on the line for me as a guest.
Dude.
Brings my equipment. So he's giving me everything except a lap dance, right? And a chocolate chip cookie.
Yeah, right.
So, but here's the point I was trying to make. Before, what led to that was this generation, the tweener generation, where people started taking plays off. When you saw Manhattan Beach, when you were watching Manhattan Beach, and there were tens of thousands of people there would be a line over shot, right? And a second after the ball hit the ground, there'd be a body on the ground next to it. There was this get after it. And I know people like the strong personalities like Hav and this and that.
Right.
But there are guys like Karch and Phil that let their play do the talking, where If you've never seen, like if you're walking on the Strand, and please keep that thought because I yap a lot.
I got you.
When you walk across the Strand and you've never seen a beach volleyball game in your life, and you watch a '90s game, you're gonna stop for a couple of plays, and then you're gonna be like, I'm gonna sit next to someone and whatever. But if you see someone lying over and it's like they take one step and they take a knee, whatever, and mind you, this is people that don't know the game.
The casual fan.
Yeah. So what do you think people that know the game are gonna do? They're gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna go to court 2 and see if this is all right. You know?
Here's like where I see what you're talking about right now. When I talk to the old school guys, I hang out with a lot of the older guys that used to play, the Walmer, Cleary, Fowlefield, those kind of guys, and chat with them about the differences of the game today and back then. And the athletes of today are amazing. They're the best athletes that ever played volleyball, right? They're jumping higher, they're faster, taller, whatever. But the guys in those days, they learned to grind and they learned to win by playing games all day, every day. If you went to Marine Street in the 90s and you wanted to train to get better, you didn't go like run drills for 2 hours and then go home and sit on your couch and play video games. You got in line, you played on Orange Court at Marine Street, the Ace Court, which was the #1 court where Hobb, Dodd, Fenoy, all those guys, those guys.
Yeah, Randy told me about it too.
All those guys. And if you wanted to play, if you didn't win, you're in the back of the line, you didn't play for 3 hours. So you learn to grind and win. You learn to, like a dog in a fight. You learn to go hard every play, because if you lost, you didn't play again.
And it's so true.
Right? So it wasn't, these guys learned the skills by playing, so maybe it wasn't as specific. Maybe they weren't working that perfect line shot 27 times in a row, but they ended up doing it over time. Right. But what they learned to do was to fight and win and be gnarly competitors, and they want to kill the guy on the other side of the net every play. There's no shaking hands and smiling and laughing and joking. Now, I'm not calling it right, wrong, or anything.
No, this is just an observation.
This is just what it is. The observation is there was a time when the game was about winning and dominating your opponent. And now there's a time when the game's about entertainment, and that's fine, right? But now we need to find, in today's world, what's going to work. And honestly, I think the AVPs found something pretty interesting.
It is. They stumbled. I'm not going to say they stumbled onto something. This might have been an idea that they had all along.
The new guy, right? You know, when you bring him in, Bobby Corvino, who's running the show now, who got the percentage, away from Bali's. I don't know if he's the owner, the manager, whatever you want to call him. Yeah. I believe he has a background in some other sports leagues, and he said, look, a league format is compelling for the fan, and here's what we're going to do. And we have 4 years of runway, and we're going to do this, and we're going to grow as best we can. But, at week 1 at UCLA, he says to the players and the coaches and everybody, look, we may not have a person in the stands. I don't care. Right. We may not, sell a ticket. I don't care. But I have a plan, and I think this is going to work, and we're going to make adjustments on the fly and work as hard as we can to get this product working. Yeah. And what I love was the transparency, because I think the issue with the last few incarnations of the AVP was the lack of transparency for the players. Confused them. They were left in the dark. They didn't know where it was. They were hoping to get their check, whatever. I think this new ownership, they basically said, we're going to share everything with the players. We're going to tell you what we're doing. We're going to ask for your feedback. And I know it's only 8 teams for men and 8 teams for women. I know it's small to start. And I know that's the plan for next summer as well. But if they can get something, and so look at, UCLA tennis there, 200 people showed up, right? Miami, not bad, a little better. San Diego, they sold 1,800 tickets on the opening night. Now, you might say, 1,800 is not a lot, but if it's compared to 200, it is a lot. They're growing the fan base already in season 1, and that means to me, people love the matches, and I think it's entertaining. You put 2 of the best 8 teams in front of you, you give them these quick 15-point sets.
And home teams.
Right. And you have a city you're rooting for. That's the point you're getting at that you said earlier. And it really resonated with me, because I thought to myself, well, what does that matter? And then you go to San Diego and you watch people cheer for San Diego. You see in Miami, people are cheering for Miami. And you go, wait a second. They may not know a lot about the players, but they're their city's players.
Yeah. And if this works, the city will purchase the team.
Right.
And then the city will conduct their own draft, right? Like,
right.
First of all, add 2 more cities. Add New Orleans, add New York.
Well, New York's going to be there next year.
You add New Orleans because there's so much talent coming out of it. You got Tony Rodriguez, you got Nuss and Cloth, you got Evan Corey, who, by the way, on Facebook Live, because you and I used to watch a lot of his Facebook Live matches on the weekend when he was a full-time blocker. Yeah. He would average 1.9, 1,900 views. Wow. Which was more than Bally Live, a week ago. So I don't know what the numbers were last week.
Right.
But this man was a human self-promotion machine. And that's the point I was trying to get to in the chronology.
Yeah.
So stay with me on this
Yeah,
one.
I got you.
2016. I'm just going to put it on the players. It was so not entertaining. My wife would go to the tournaments because they weren't crowded. Right. No, my wife wasn't, she's an introvert. She wasn't, she's not like a big crowds person.
Right.
She used to go there because it wasn't crowded. But then from 2017, we can go the men and the girls. In fact, I'll let you take the men, but I'll do the girls.
You do more girls. Yeah.
It became an NCAA sport, right?
Yeah.
All of the club sizes have tripled, so it became like a business. Even though Endless Summer, remember the picture I showed you?
Yeah.
Endless Summer, we kept it tight. We only kept it 19 girls and like one coach for every like 4 girls. So that was wild, and which was resulted in some success.
Yeah.
Understatement. But from 2016 to 2019, what happened was there was a generation of girls coming in that were sending a message to their predecessors. If you don't mind your P's and Q's, we're pushing you off the cliff. If you're doing videos of yourself working out, that means you're probably not working out. And I'm teasing because I know that's a promotional thing.
No, it's a whole thing. Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, here's the inciting incident. 2019 Hermosa Beach, the Norris twins. Before they even went to USC, they made the main draw. You had Maple and Kraft at 15 and 17 years old who made the main draw. You had Chrissy Jones and Zana Muno as the 43rd seed in the qualifier, made it to the semifinals. You had Katie Hogan at that time, who was still young. She fell off a little bit, but and then you had Betsy Flint and Day, who Betsy said, "I love y'all, but I'm not having it. Keep these BITs from me.
Yeah.
So I'd like you to take over for the men, but the women." The message was sent, and when it became an NCAA sport and they're getting the exposure, and now they got the Olympic gold, they had the Olympic gold of the previous Olympics, that led to this huge momentum where now indoor and beach, like indoor, Big 10 network, Big 12 network, indoor women's volleyball is the third most viewed sport, only behind football and basketball.
Well, it's massive because you see, like in Nebraska, they sold 93,000 tickets for a volleyball game.
And I know there was a concert that night, but nobody makes you wear red for a concert. They believe in red.
Think about that. Think about the changes that are happening, right? I know that's indoor, not beach. We're talking beach. Obviously on the men's side, things are a little different. You had Miles and Marcus, coming and almost knocking off our boy Jeff Samuels.
Yes,
in Hermosa
first
in the
main
first
draw,
round.
17. Yeah,
Mike Brunsting. That was interesting. But other than that, you don't have a lot of young athletes on the men's side of the beach. Right now, I was just having this chat with someone this morning because the money's not there, the college game's not there, right? So when they're training, it's mostly going to be indoors. You got an occasional Derek Bradford, right?
Right.
I want you guys who are listening to look out for Derek Bradford in the next couple of years.
Nice.
Derek's he's going to be a monster. That guy, I believe. But the point is, but you got indoor converts. You got like a James Shaw who should be doing some things this fall internationally. And so, again, like on the men's side, we don't have the support like the women have, right? And we still have the elder statesmen of the game continuing to dominate, other than Crabs have been around for a long time, right? Taylor Sanders, the indoor convert, who's amazing.
Yeah.
Right? You got Billy Allen and Lotman playing great in the league, right? At two guys who are around 40, under a little bit,
yes.
Right? So it's interesting to see that until we have a way to grow and support young men's players, like the women, we're probably not going to, Phil keep playing as long as he wants. Yeah. Right.
And the Taylors are draftable too, bi-coastally.
Yeah,
like New York. New York would draft the Taylors in a heartbeat. That's right. Corey Mays, DJ Spinola, good job, promoting and getting them out there.
By the way, you're going to see a New York franchise in the summer next year. I'm certain of that. They're going to go with 8, maybe 10 from what I hear.
Yeah. Aaron, I see your question. Stay put. We're going to answer that question for him. But I would like, before we get to his question, I would like to say the last AVP that was in New York and Manhattan was absolutely genius.
I love that. Stuyvesant High School there, right?
And it was Union Square.
Yes.
You take the A train, the C or the E, the 1, 2, 3, 4, right there. And you walk, and you're there on the
right from Tribeca, right? You just walk out onto the pier.
Yeah.
Honestly, that's one of my favorites.
And it was the only place besides Manhattan Beach and maybe Chicago. The qualifier looked like the draw.
It was stacked, yeah. That tournament's amazing. I think they have to go back to New York, right? Yeah. It's going to end the league, and Chicago, by the way, is going to be the league final next year. So
I wonder if that qualifier was that Ricardo and Shock in a qualifier?
Yeah, well, I believe it was
Cam Beans and Sean Ledig first round.
Cameron Beans. It's funny. We were giving it to him at the Manhattan qualifier. Was a year or two ago. He was playing Tim Walmer's son, Jack, and who was playing with Sebastian Rodriguez, Seabass.
Yes.
And Cameron Beans was Cameron Beans was playing with from New York, big tall black guy who.
Roger. Roger Serbeef.
No, not Roger. The other.
Stronger
than Roger, who was the blonde girlfriend, is Ukrainian or something like that.
Bella.
Chris.
No, Chris Frazier.
Chris Frazier and Cameron Beans, weren't they playing together?
Father Timeless.
Yeah,
that's what I call him.
Chris Frazier looks great. But I think they were playing, and it was like we were heckling. It was so much fun. But, Cameron Beans was so cool. Because obviously it's pork and beans, it's whatever, a can of beans. And he was having a great time with us in the crowd. So mad respect.
It's like your beans got turned into a black eyed pea, son.
Mad respect for him, though. He was awesome. So,
Tell him I'm Puerto Rican. I've been eating beans my whole life.
You know what's the thing is, like, that's what I'm a little scared about, that when the league completely takes over. Because obviously the writing's on the wall. Right. We know next year they're only going to have a Manhattan Open and maybe Huntington. That's it.
Yes.
That's already out.
But let's talk about the most important part about New York. Little Brazil's going to be there, right? There's a neighborhood there. Yeah. The Koreans in Flushing, right? The Chinese in Chinatown.
Like
the Dominicans.
48th,
yes.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. The Dominicans in Washington Heights. They came, that last AVP.
Well, dude, when you cruise around New York City, Ed, do you ever see the hardcourt games on the weird skinny net where they can like throw the ball, but it's like super high?
Yes.
I don't know what that is. I've been cruising around New York for work.
It's up like 9.5 feet.
And they're doing this weird game with the skinny net, and I think it's a
soccer
is it the
ball.
Puerto Rican guys or who is it?
No, it's the Indian. It's the Indian guy.
Oh, is it? Okay.
They catch it.
Yeah, and they kind of throw it, but it's like volleyball. And I see this in the net. Like I saw this. Where was I? I was up in like Astoria or something, and I was like, "Whoa, what's going on here?" Now by the Central Park court, by the beach or by the Sheep's Meadow or whatever, they have those sand courts.
Yeah,
there's that one indoor court too there that people play.
There's 3 of them.
Yeah. Oh, really? So because they put them up, they bring the net. Okay,
they repainted.
Oh,
them.
Wow.
So if you remember back in the day, there was only the one court, the clunky wooden one. And then we tore down one.
Yeah, and you made 2.
Thanks to John Stossel, raised a lot of money. And you want to talk about New Yorkers, the way they pop up things, like how like in California. Like someone's building something, or your school's being renovated, right?
It's gonna be a few years.
And you're still looking at it, and it's still whatever. No, New York. You take a week away. So it took 3 weeks. They tore down the one and built 2.
That's unreal.
That was wild.
I don't remember if I ever got there when there was only one court, because I remember 2. And I remember bumping into you. It must have been about like 2011 or 12 the first time I went to that court. Because I was on Facebook going, where can I play in New York City? I'm always there for work. And some guy's like, hey, go to Central Park. And I'm like, okay. And, Yvonne... Dude.
Yvonne Chu.
Oh my God, she's
Birdman,
a legend.
Yeah, Birdman's
a legend.
Yeah, Yvonne feeds everybody.
Oh, dude, there was
Aaron. So I'm so sorry, but Yvonne feeds everybody. Yeah. She brings food.
Oh, dude,
and she's putting chips by your mouth. It was unreal. You're just gonna keep eating.
So like to me, that Central Park crew is a microcosm of like a beach in California.
Yeah.
Because in the old days, like when I moved to Cali in '96, my parents moved out here, so I came to 8th Street first, and every street had a group of guys or girls or guys and girls that would play and hang out, and kind of that was the crew, right? So for me, 8th Street originally was my crew. 96, 97, I started hanging out with Rosie, and that's kind of my whole introduction to volleyball in California. But there was a crew there of guys 8th Street, and it was Rosie and Brandon Smeltzer, and Dale was a good player, and that was basically it. And a bunch of like guys who played a little in high school that Rosie would just womp on all day, right, for fun. But then you had 16th Street. Then you had the Wall guys at the Manhattan Pier. Then you had the Hermosa Pier crew, which was another group of aspiring players. So that's kind of what Central Park felt like when I first got there, because everyone knew each other. Everyone was cool. There was people had some beers. Maybe they were smoking something. Definitely having some food.
Yeah, definitely.
It was, I mean, I don't know anything about that. But the point is,
me neither. I've never actually smoked a cigarette.
No, me neither. And so the point I'm getting at is that's what I loved about the New York City crew was not only were they cool, but as soon as I played a few games and people realized I was just a cool guy, I wasn't some douche. I was in, and I could go hang out there anytime, and that made a big difference. Because I was going to New York like 15, 20 weeks a year at that point for work. Yeah. And I needed something volleyball-wise because I was only home like on the weekends, Yeah. So it was cool to have that crew. And
we still chill with guys like you. Like Adam Roberts had to spend a lot of time in and out of New York. We got to know him. We got to love him. He's one of the biggest ambassadors of the sport. Did he come up?
He would go up to that court
Amaury
and play?
Velasco.
Oh, Amaury is amazing.
Gaucho was doing business there for 3 years.
Oh, no way.
Seydou Ajanako Morocco.
I remember Seydou real well.
Him and
Yeah.
then Shamzu spent the summer with us one time.
Dude,
From Cal
Seydou's
Baptist.
a baller, dude. He was unreal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Jason, where am I from? Africa has 54 countries.
Dude.
Where am I from?
And he played at Cal Baptist
Yes.
with an unbelievable team when Duncan Budinger
Yes.
was playing at Long Beach.
Yes.
And I was hanging out with all the Long Beach guys, and I went and saw that match
You were
that year,
with
which
Shamzu.
was 2003 or 2004.
Yeah.
Right around there. 2004 it would have been, or 4 into the winter of 5. And I remember seeing Seydou and Shamzu, and they had this 6'11" guy from freaking Holland.
Ridiculous, yeah.
Who was so I was just like, Cal Baptist is for real.
But Shamzu would get do a jump serve, and on the overpass goes to D zone, and he takes it on one.
Right.
There's a video.
The guys
in
are
fact,
flying.
I'm maybe on the edit. I'll
those
put it up.
45-inch vertical guys. It was
And everyone was just like, did
ridiculous.
he just take an overpass
from the D zone? No, it was silly. It was silly. I mean, that was like Long Beach. Long Beach had like all Americans, and they had to fight hard in 5 to beat that team.
Yeah, it's true.
It was like. It was Tyler Hildebrand. It was Bobby Tarr. It was Teddy Lyles. They had them all good. Nate Hagstrom, Clint Coe.
No scouting report.
All good players, and they play this random Cal Baptist NAIA, I think, right?
Yeah, they're
something like that.
and they won. They're 2-time champs.
Oh
too,
yeah,
before they went to NCAA.
So I mean that was, and it's funny. So I bumped into Seydou in New York with you guys once, and then I'm overseas, 2000 maybe like 21, and Seydou's still trying to do it for Ghana. He's still trying to represent and get the Olympics.
When you went to Stade, he represented.
That's
Ghana.
right. I saw him. He didn't have a great tournament. He's on decline physically at that point.
And not to mention Krasilnikov.
20 years
did you
later.
see his pool?
Yeah, no, it was silly. I don't remember all the details, but I remember he had a tough pool. But he could play, but it's like you get to a point where like, okay, you're almost 40 now.
Pools are like poker tables.
Oh, good.
If you look around the table and you don't know who the bad player is,
yeah,
it's you.
Dude, it's unreal. That system on the international game, like if you wanted to get into that, it's so interesting because I think the point of like this Olympic run, and not to like focus too much, I was assisting with Chase and Miles, know? And like if you don't play every tournament, let's say you just played half of them.
Right.
It's almost like you said, if you get to the table, or what is your pool, the poker table, and it's kind of sort of random because the points change every week. So you're not really sure from the last tournament whose points went up, whose points down. You get to your pool. You could get a great draw, you get a terrible draw.
Right.
So if you only play half the tournaments and you get half the time you get a terrible draw, you just don't have enough opportunities.
No.
So like kind of the way to win if you want to go to the Olympics, this is what Chase Budinger and I kind of talked about initially, was we have to play every tournament. And guess what? It worked.
It really did.
It's not fun to go to China and India and Thailand and not see your baby and not see your wife.
That. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, look, by the way, those places can be good, but I've been to India 4 or 5 times now, and it's pretty dirty and the air's disgusting.
No, forget all that.
You know what I mean? China, there are great parts of China. They never put you there when you're playing, right? It's always in some weird place that you don't really want to be. So the point is, like, there's a certain mentality which reminds me of the old school mentality, to bring it back a little bit, of the grind. It's about playing and not complaining. And honestly, I love Trevor and Theo, but they made a conscious decision to not play certain tournaments. And they would have probably easily made the Olympics if they had played Thailand and Philippines at the end of last season, the 2 easiest challenge tournaments ever that they didn't play. And it's just...
And it was sad for me because I'm only a fan, an actual fan of 3 players, because I'm a purist. I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of the sport, so I'll follow the sport. But I have my exceptions.
Okay, give me
my exceptions are
exceptions.
Baranek,
okay,
not freaking playing anymore.
I love Eric.
Theo, and Trevor. And now Theo and Trevor, and I'm like, did you guys make a team? I'm like, did you guys make a team for me? Did you do that for me?
So what's amazing, right? Look at Trevor Crabb and say to yourself, what if you were to like go to the track and say sprint, or go to a weight room and say who jumps the highest, or go to like who lifts the most? Trevor's none of those things. What he is a winner, and he makes the right decision, and he feels the game better than anybody, right?
Yeah.
When he makes a cut shot, it's because it's available.
Yeah.
He didn't make the cut shot because he thought that might be available. He knows it's available.
Well, honestly,
right?
That's what helped him win his first AVP. That Trevor thing, he won with Reed Pretty.
Yeah.
And I don't think he really needed a coach. He needed someone that was a winner, right? Like Jeff Alzina was his coach, and Jeff is one of the top 3 coaches probably in the world.
He's amazing.
Like he's an absolute
amazing.
Savage,
Dude,
right?
He's amazing.
We can count on one hand that of people that belong in that category.
Everyone
right?
that Z's
But then you get Jose
with,
Loyola.
Right?
You get Loyola.
Oh, yeah, Loyola too.
Loyola, who I didn't think at that time in 2019 was a coach, but I knew he was a winner.
Oh, dude, yeah.
Like he knew X's nose,
and he knows the
like
game.
yes,
and he's
but
been
but
through
think
it,
about it. Winner's mentality.
Right.
Winner's mentality.
Right.
And you win with Reed Pretty like.
And he had to take down my guys Chase and Casey in the finals, and it was a bummer
about it.
because Chase and Casey get the finals and they go, wait, we got Reed Pretty and Trevor. Oh, and
But
then they go off.
But
you
look
know?
at all these high IQ competent partners Trevor had or
Yes,
could have had, right?
yes.
Did he win with John Mayer? Did he win with Rosie? Did he win with his
Right,
brother Taylor, right?
right,
You
right.
win with Reed Pretty
Right.
because the perfect storm of Jose.
Okay, let me give
And-
you.
and
I got
them
a
together.
Trevor story for you. That's the best one. Okay, we're in Lucerne, Switzerland in 2018.
Okay.
Chase and Rosie are playing on the World Tour in their second international tournament. They're maybe second or third overall tournament they play together. It's a 3-star, and win the star system. It's kind of like a little below what a challenge is today. And Trevor has lost his first match. Now remember, pool play back then. If you didn't break pool, you got a 25th. These were 32 team draws, right? Trevor loses his first match. He loses the first set in his second match, which would eliminate him from pool. And in the second set, he's down 20-18, and hits a line shot, and the Swiss guy is standing there, and the Swiss guy decides to one-ball him to try to win, and misses the one ball by about an inch. So Trevor gets the side out, right? They go on to score a point. They go on to win the set. They go on to win the match to break pool. So one ball means a 25th, or they end up winning the tournament, which is what happened. John Mayer and Trevor win the tournament.
Yep.
Although if that Swiss guy decides, I'm not going to one ball, I'm just going to pass set and put the ball away, which might have been risky, who knows, in his mind, who knows. But the point is, how does that change Trevor's career? Because up to that time, he had not won really anything. Right. And now he goes on to win what becomes a pretty meaningful tournament with him. John Mayer and him end up having some more success, but then he parlays that into playing with Try, and then and then just going for the run that he had for his whole career. I think there's a crossroads in people's lives. I think we like that.
Jeez.
Like there's a sliding doors moment, like the movie, back in the day with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yep.
Did I get on the subway? Did I not get on the subway?
I remember
Did
that.
the guy miss the one ball? Did the guy hit the one ball? If that guy hits the one ball and ends Trevor's tournament with a 25th, he might go, you know what? I need to think about this international game.
Right.
I might come back to a tournament in a few months. Instead, him and John win the tournament, and now they're like, oh, we're freaking good. We're going to go play more of these. And now that confidence, right? Because every one of these athletes has skill, has strength, has power, speed, whatever. But here is what changes, right? Everything.
Let's take this subject matter of defining moments that make or break you, that make you go this way or that way.
Yeah.
Let's store that in our memory bank.
Okay.
Because Aaron, who stuck around,
Wax.
Aaron says,
Let's
ask
go.
Ed about creating more commerce on the AVP other than ticket sales. What can players or the AVP sell, and what would the audience want to purchase? Jerseys, glasses, mentorships program. Dude,
really
I got
good.
a bunch
That's a
of
really good
opinions, but I don't qualify. The floor is yours.
Right on, Jay. No, hey, Wax, love the question. And I've been thinking about this a bit because, so I have my own business. My wife has a very successful business. We're both entrepreneurs. And thinking about the world from an entrepreneurship lens, right, at the end of the day, revenue and profit are important, right? You can raise money. You can, like the AVP has funding right now. They have investors. But at the end of the day, your top line revenue is valuable, but eventually you need to become profitable. Becoming profitable usually has something to do with, in a sports world, those secondary items can be a big part of that, right?
Right.
So why do the Lakers draft Bronny James? It's not because he's going to freaking win them any games, because he's not. And I'm not a Laker fan. I'm from Boston originally. But it's because he's going to sell 1 million jerseys in the first hour, right? So like
Imagine if he could play too.
Right. So getting back to the question, so the AVP now, one of the things I didn't know was going to happen, but happened right away off the bat, was jerseys.
Right.
They aren't selling them yet, but they're freaking cool looking. They're working on the size though. They're a little short, but the point is, right? So there's an item. I think jersey sales is going to be huge. Because if you look at the old AVP merchandising tent, there was a time 10 to 15 years ago where it had some good stuff, but the last few years it's been right, it hasn't been great. It's been,
I had the camera on
even
you.
even the hats. I'm like, I don't really want to buy that hat. So if they can build up that, and so now, okay, here's the second thing. Okay, so you've got jerseys, you've got hats, you've got some merchandise. That's great. That's gonna probably sell. And in the cities, if I'm a New York guy, I'm gonna buy my New York jersey. That's different, right? That's not like oh, I'm an Austrian. It's kind of like the World Tour, though, right? Because the
Yeah.
World Tour has the opportunity. You can buy like your player jersey, your Austrian jersey, or whatever, your Swiss jersey.
Jersey
So,
number. Put your
right,
own name
put your
on
own
it.
name on it. Yeah. So I like that. I like that part of it. Now here's the second part that I realized. I go to the first one in UCLA, and as we said, not a lot of people are there. But what are they selling? They're selling beer. They're selling food, and the AVP is going to get a split of that, right? And the beers are, I mean, look, I don't drink, but the beers were like $18, so, or whatever it was. Like, I don't know the exact number, something in that range. I was like,
it's
whoa, but people are buying them.
Yes.
Right? So there's something, when you work in arenas, tennis centers, stuff like that, you get a cut of the concessions. You get ticket sales, you get concessions, you get merchandise sales, on-site, off-site, right, online, etc. So I think looking at all those different things, these are little pieces. Not one of those things is going to make or break your business, but if you add them all up, it changes the game, right? So what was the AVP, 30, 40 years ago? It was a beer company giving them a $10 million check and saying good luck, and then getting a TV contract and maybe making some revenue.
And Jose Cuervo, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, a number of sponsors. I'm simplifying the argument.
No,
but
of course.
The point is, like, today's AVP, they can't rely on sponsorship because it just hasn't worked for the last 10 years. Donald Sun was the sponsor, essentially.
Right.
Right, because I love all the small companies that have been supporting the AVP, whether it be Clean Skin, is that how you pronounce the sunblock company?
Yeah.
I used to say Klein Skin. I think it's Clean Skin.
Yeah, I don't.
Slunkies, I love Chris Reams is the man.
Oh,
but obviously
love
that's
to have him on
not
the
a
podcast,
huge
dude.
sponsor. That's a nice clothing sponsor for the AVP, but that's not Nike. You know what I mean? So they have a lot of nice smaller sponsors, but that's not going to pay the bills for the tour. So I think what Wex is getting at is that there have to be these other ancillary revenue streams that if you kind of piece those together with your ticket sales, with your TV revenue, with some small sponsorships, now you've got a picture where you've got profitability. And I think that was the point Bobby Corvino made when he talks to the players and the coaches and the people involved in the new AVP is we're going to make this work as a business.
Yes.
A real business, not a charity where Donald Sun is handing out checks, right, for 10 years. And bless his heart, he's a billionaire and he loved volleyball. And a lot of people have conspiracy theories about him having to hide revenue from other companies or tax sort of sheltering using the AVP.
Okay.
Whatever the argument is, it was great that he did it, but for about 8 years, he was running 7 tournaments a year with the exact same money. They would change the footprint a little, they changed the stadiums a little a few times, right? That's not growth, and that's not helping the sport, and that's not helping the players.
And there were no boots on the ground.
Right.
I mean, Aaron Wexler. I see 2 more questions, and I promise you, we're gonna get to both of those 2. Boots on the ground helps. Okay, Brooklyn. There's a minor league baseball team called the Cyclones.
Oh yeah, is that out of Coney Island?
Yeah,
No way.
And
That's
those
cool,
games
man.
sell out. And
wow.
I would have never known about those games if there weren't boots on the ground. Hey, Cyclones game. People at that Stillwell Avenue at West State Street, Brighton
oh
Beach.
my God, yeah.
I'm
Russian
talking
neighborhood.
Just really.
Dude, you want some
getting it in.
pierogies? You're gonna go down to
like
Brighton Beach.
AVP 2019, New York.
Yeah.
I'm a former coach, high school coach, so I went to the exceptional seniors game. This is like this kind of like a showcase for like last minute recruits,
City, right?
Yeah, for for some college coaches that might be looking for last minute recruits because city kids are very very they're America's hidden talent. Like you got a guy that doesn't speak English, but he's better than like your maybe your top 15 draft pick anywhere in the country. So I go to that exceptional seniors game, and 10 minutes later, I got 50 kids that take up a whole set of the bleachers. Wow. And that's just me, just boots on boots on the ground. I called the three major indoor leagues, told them the AVP was in town. I called Urban League, and Paul and John were like, we'll see if we could come through. I think his name was Aaron for Long Island Volleyball Club or Long Island Volleyball. Okay. Because they had beach, indoor, and grass. Mm-hmm. He loves it. He's all in. He came. Wow. Big City was like, nah, thanks, but no thanks. They got consumed by their own arrogance and they get what they deserve, right? I don't mean to air people's laundry. Oh my God, I'm not gonna have a podcast that keep talking about people.
I
like
love
this.
what you're bringing.
But like
up,
boots
right?
on, just me, just a solo thing. I got 50 kids. Just going to an exceptional seniors game.
It's a grassroots kind of effort, right? Mm-hmm. It's bringing, and so like kind of what the league has done. So they learned from UCLA, right? Okay, we put it on at a college where kids weren't back on campus yet. So we tried to give out like discounted student tickets. There weren't any students. Then they went to San Diego and they did the same thing, but actually kids were on campus, and they went from 200 to 1,800 attended ticket sales.
Yeah.
Now look, those ticket sales were discounted. I get it, whatever. But
that's just one person.
That's the point, right? You can do it. They can do it. Everyone can do it. But they have to learn this process. And I think
but who's the professional, right? Who's the one that's getting paid to do this? Who's the one that's supposed to know better? Why am I doing their job on a small scale, on an equal or better scale than them?
Well, I know the short answer is because you're passionate about volleyball. The long answer is they need to do a better job, right? And I think the answer is they've finally identified people to do that job. And I know right now the McKibbins are taking the lion's share of that work and learning and getting better at it. And I know we wish, as fans of the sport, wanting to grow faster and better, we wish it was more crowded, but it's going to get there. I trust this process. I think it is improving. Look, we're in 2024. We got next year's league. Let's see how it goes. But definitely, they have something. They have
100% do.
I think, like, okay, here's a good example too. My wife does not watch volleyball unless Chase Buddinger's playing.
Okay.
She's buddies, they're buddies with Chase, and she loves Beckham.
She's a busy woman. She's got this finite amount of hours in a day, right?
She won't
ain't going to use it.
Even in Hermosa, she's like, tell me when Chase is playing. I'll walk out. I'll watch the game. I'll hang out with Beckham, and I'll come back, right? And Beckham is the most amazing kid in the history of the world, in my opinion. I don't have kids. So anyway, the point I'm getting at is, the league, we've been putting it on YouTube, right on the big TV when we've been eating dinner, and she's been watching every match. At least she likes certain teams better than others, but I'm like, wow, it actually has gotten my wife to be like, hey, this is pretty fun and entertaining. So I think there's something there, right?
There's something there with Bud, tell you that.
Yeah.
One of my favorite match of the year in 2023 was Manhattan Beach. There was a sunset game. ESPN at 6 o'clock folded up their tent, took their cameras and went home. And ESPN, I have a lot of respect for them. I was glad to actually be calling some matches on ESPN.
That was the Taylors against Chase and Miles at sunset.
And I'm so glad I brought my camera.
My God. That match was.
And where's my camera? You're welcome.
By the way,
you're welcome, AVP. All this work I've been doing, and the only reason why I even got commentary jobs is because their partners asked for me by name.
Yeah.
But the Pottstown Rumble, they asked for me by name.
Oh, dude, you're awesome on that. I watched some of that.
I know. It was wild.
That Manhattan match, though. That Manhattan match. So here's the funny thing. Old school guys are going to say, oh, these young guys, they played their fourth match of the day. They're complaining. Yeah. But honestly, like, Chase and Miles were playing a fourth match of a pretty long, hot day. And Chase was basically cramping during the game, and they went to 3, and it was a great match and lost. But the point I'm getting at is those old school guys, we used to play, 12 games, hours a day. Man. Whatever it is. But it's different now, right?
God,
guys are more explosive.
They do it till you love them.
I love it. I love it.
They talk like that until you love them.
I know.
I love
that's
the best get off my lawn speech
it's great.
Ever,
it's
dude.
Wonderful, right?
Yeah.
We had 2-day tournaments with 64. We played 3 sets to 11, old school side out scoring. And
dude, put on a shirt or shave the white hair off, man. Make a decision, man.
The finals was 2.5 hours, and it went after dark. We're playing in the dark, And I'm like, that's great, but guess what? That's not going to work today.
My feet got charred. Wait, you had feet? You had feet?
Yeah. That model was great in the 70s and the 80s, where guys and girls wanted to sit in a lawn chair for 12 hours watching volleyball all day. But I honestly think, like, today's consumer of entertainment has a limited attention span. I don't think people want to sit and watch 2.5 hours of volleyball right now in one match. Maybe indoors they do that. It's not quite as long anymore, right? But I think that's why I'm sort of so positive on the league. And it's a weird realization. Even right now I'm having this realization, like, wow, I am so positive on it. Not just because I want it to succeed, but I see that people can sit down and watch a 30-minute match and get a snack and come back and watch another.
And a home team will stay for the whole thing.
Yes.
UCLA, a match goes to 5. Who's leaving?
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Buffalo Bills, right?
That's right. If it's a 3-hour football game, they're there because it's their home city.
You won't need neutral ground players anymore if they do this right.
Yeah. If they do this
right, New York's. Let's say the Taylors are hosting. Let's say Evan, Corey, and Allison represent New Orleans. Yeah. That's gonna put butts in seats, and forget the other two teams playing a neutral ground game. Just one match, 2 out of 3 men's, one match, 2 out of 3 women's, and there will not be a single soul Because in the city that never sleeps, they will not. In fact, security going to have to kick them out after the match. You know what? Because the nostalgia.
Because they'll be lined
they're
up
still
to get
in their chair. Security's
signatures.
like, you got to go. And I'm like, I ain't going nowhere.
Get to say hi, to give a, whatever, to get a photo op. I mean, and I see that already at these league matches. I already see the enthusiasm from the fans at a higher level than what we see at a traditional tournament. Not to say that we haven't had some great traditional tournaments. I mean, that Hermosa tournament was great with Paauluhi.
That was a great idea, but go ahead.
I mean, I loved it, and it's going to be bigger, by the way. It's going to grow, and Wedbush is all in with all that, and that's great. But I still see that as kind of an old model that isn't congruent with today's consumer of entertainment. So, and I don't know if that's just an observation.
No, well, at the end of the day, the Hermosa Beach was really just to give the people of Hermosa Beach in the South Bay what they thought they deserved, right? Yeah. And yes, it was I'm not going to say a good old boys club thing because people came out for that. I have friends that visited New York. It wasn't a huge
crowd there.
But it was the crowd that like that. 30 of those guys are equivalent to 300. But they're like 30. Yeah. Let's say 300 people showed up for the finals.
Right.
300
300 maniacs. Yeah. And guess what? Paauluhi proved something right there. And Mark Paauluhi is one of the most amazing people that I've known for 25 years, right? 16th Street guy, a pro, banned from the AVP for a while.
A mensch, right?
A guy who really put the work in,
I bet
every
Donaldson
aspect
had
of his
something
life.
to do with that, right? Everyone getting banned had
No,
something to do with
it was the
Donaldson.
previous one. It was Leonard Armato. It was the early one.
What are they, Vince McMahon?
But
You're
the point,
banned?
yeah, no, they banned him for 10 years. Okay, but the point, Mark Paauluhi's freaking amazing, and so what he proved with Hermosa, honestly, is that there's an appetite for small budget local tournaments,
right?
Because I mean, look, when you set up the Manhattan Beach Open, it costs you $1 million to set that up. You pay $200,000-$300,000 to the city. You pay another $400,000 to set the stadium up. You know what I mean? What are you like? Why? I know you got to have a big footprint, show it looks big on TV, whatever. Hermosa cost $40,000 to set up.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it was more or less successful, but I'm saying that it can be done that way. And then you can have the AVP do the league. So in my mind, I start thinking about, wouldn't it be cool if people like Mark Paauluhi or like Steve Obradovich, who run a $250,000 four-man tournament on Saturday that was freaking insane.
I heard that was
freaking insane.
I was coaching juniors, but I missed out on something that was just gnarly.
Phil and Sailor Sander as the two pin hitters was like, this is stupid. They're so good. Phil at 44 was ridiculous. Yeah. Honestly, like ridiculous. I was like shocked. He's like, when he comes to play, it's still insane. Yeah. And then you got James Shaw, who's just smashing balls, right? I love Miles Evans setting on that team, dishing. I mean, it's fun. So the point I'm getting at, but what that tournament proved to me, being down there watching fours and having played fours for 25 years in like our local stuff, realizing if you don't have a setter, you're not going to win.
No.
You can't win a game if you don't have a setter.
No.
Right? That's interesting. Carly Lloyd, now McKibben, right, wins with Megan Rice and Tony Rodriguez against teams with multiple beach Olympians on them. But what do they have? They have by far the best setter on the beach.
Yeah, you need a setter or you need a middle.
Right.
You need one of the
other. Probably both.
Like Manhattan Sixes is not one without the middles.
You know what?
Or a decent alpha.
Dude, Manhattan Sixes, I played, I ran this Monster Energy drink team for so long. We had so many studs. We had teams with Theo Brunner, Max Holt, Paul Lotman, Chase Buttinger, Duncan Buttinger. This was our starting lineup.
Right.
And then we had two like local guys setting. Mm-hmm. And we lost because we couldn't set the ball in the crunch time. And you win that tournament by having A, the biggest block, and B, the best.
It's what for indoor. It's what divides double A from open.
Right? Yeah,
the difference between double A and open are the
middles. So we had this guy named Matt Belmonte that a lot of people don't know. He played in Northridge, and he destroyed George Romaine in that tournament. I mean, destroyed him. So if you have a good middle, it's anyway. So the point of getting back to so you've got Obradovich with this forest tournament who got all this money together and got this going. You've got Paauluhi who gets money going and does local tournament. I go, wait a second, could there be a world which the AVP has their league? And then separately, there's other, kind of like when the NBL is developing, the EVP is developing, there's other leagues that can run the other type of events that people want.
Well, maybe not a league, but maybe like if the NBA has an All-Star game, right? The football has a Pro Bowl.
Right.
Get something where all the beach players get together and play sixes. How about that?
Yeah, or we'll call whatever, right?
Like, do you remember in the 90s there was Team Cup Volleyball?
Yeah, I do. I do.
So for our audience listening, Team Cup Volleyball was an indoor thing where like the four big sponsors, Toyota, Coca-Cola, Paul Mitchell, and there was a fourth one. and
I'll
they
remember
and they
eventually, yeah.
played sixes, like
Yeah.
quad style, like round
Ken
robin style.
Steffes, like guys.
So-
Hovland was playing. Like
So the 10-foot
yeah.
line was at the 15-foot line.
Yeah.
And one person from the back row was allowed to come up and block. So like every single play, and I mean right now I'll show it on an edit later, but it was great. So every single play had like 3 blocks.
Did they play at Madison Square Garden? They did. Huh?
No.
It was all
Madison-
out in California. Huh?
No, Madison Square Garden was
for that.
the revenge match.
Remember
with
they had
Timmins and
they had the
Japan.
indoor thing, the what do they call it, Evian Indoor Series.
Yes.
that was at Madison Square, Boston Garden, and a few places. They've done some things like that.
Right.
But the
Yeah.
way I'm thinking is the league is the AVP, and then tournaments happen sort of more organically.
No, I was at
You
that
know?
game, by the way, the Evian. That was
Yeah.
that was Loyola and AJ
Loyola,
against Karch and Steffes.
Yeah, that's your New York one. We had one in Boston when I was a kid,
and
too.
that's the Garden.
Yeah.
I mean, today you need
Yeah.
$900,000 just to turn
No,
the
I
lights
know.
on. To
No,
turn
I
the
know.
lights
No, I
on.
know. I don't know how they pulled that off, right? But like, it's so interesting to see these evolutions, these changes. But at the end of the day, we need to give the audience something they want to see, and so that league seems good. But there's still like these tournaments can happen, like the Hermosa tournament. It had some great teams. We were missing Taylors, right? We're missing teams, but in the end, like Alex Rangeri and Miles Partain playing Jason Miles.
That you'll never see again. That you've never seen before, right?
No, yeah, never. And that was fun. I mean, that's the kind of fun stuff that you can do with these. And by the way,
Sam Schachter and Theo, that was a
did
good
you
one.
see? You may not have heard this. There's a proposal being aired out with the FIVB. There's an idea floating around that you might be able to play with someone who's not in your country.
Cool.
For Volleyball World, because Volleyball World's separate from the FIB, right?
Right.
Volleyball World runs the events and wants to get more people watching and make more money. And FIB is just a governing body, right?
Yeah,
and so,
but that dynamic won't sell though.
yeah. So I mean, with that, yeah, I don't know if it will or not because of what you said: cities, countries, fans, right? So if Anders Mol played with a Brazilian, who's rooting? Like, is Brazilians root for them? Do Norwegians root for them?
It'd be probably the 2 best players in the world that nobody cares about.
You could do that. You could somehow make like our Sweden and Norway somehow split up and play with each other. Whatever it is. I mean, I don't know how.
The personality would have to be galvanizing as heck.
I wonder.
Like if it were Ivandro, who walks around and he can walk around and say nothing, and everyone's staring.
By the way, you heard Andre George broke up? I mean, there's some stuff going on right now that's so like.
Whatever happened to Brazil where you just did what they said?
Dude, they used to do that. They used to just
told.
make the teams, right? And now they're kind of letting people a little more autonomy. It's interesting. I saw Evandro and Artur are signed up, or Artur is signed up with a different partner in some fall tournaments. Maybe Evandro's just not.
The one thing I'm the most grateful for Mark Pope's, pronounce his name again.
Who?
Mark Paauluhi.
I don't know
pronounce it?
I don't know the pronunciation. Yeah.
All right. The one thing I'm most grateful for Mark. Well, he came on the podcast. When
wow.
Kips are promoted or whatever, just get some interest in this and
Oh,
that.
Paauluhi. You're talking about. Sorry, I
so
missed
the
what
one
you were gonna
thing
ask. Mark Paauluhi,
I'm grateful is that I recommended like
we just call him Luau.
Thank you.
Luau.
Thank God. That's the easier
easier.
way to. I'm old and stupid, and that's the easier way for me to go. I recommended like some commentators and this and that. So, like Prosser, I said Rob Sparrow is a good announcer and a good setup guy for a color commentator. So when everyone got to commentate except me, I wanted to thank him because it was a message that I received from my personal and professional self that this I got work. I'd like to think I'm good at this, but I still got work to do.
Hey, that's
what I'm saying. And I didn't have the best year. Like Pottstown Rumble was wild because I rubbed some people the wrong way, right? And that traveled back across the country, right? Which, by the way, for entertainment purposes, somehow worked for me. Right. You know, AVP Denver, NSPN asked me by name. AVP had their own people for center court, but NSPN asked me by name, and I did okay. And I lost a little bit of the things that I'm good at because I'm trying to not upset apple carts. And the danger is you should do this like this person, you should do it like that person. Then when you do it, you know what happens? Those same people say what makes you different from everybody. So it's a catch-22. And Mark not considering me for that wasn't personal to me.
I don't
because
think it's personal.
because he's one of the nicest guys in the world, and he would want me for it.
Yeah.
So him not picking me
My
for
guesstimate
it
is
showed me I'd like to just
he knows other people better. He knows he has his people.
No, but for me, I'm not. It's not like I'm gonna stop doing this.
Right.
Between you and me, we have our brand and our bottom line are separate. We get to do what we want.
That's right.
I'm sitting across the table of someone that I can say the same thing.
Yeah.
People at home, your brand is your name, your reputation. Your bottom line is how you make your money. That's the carpet under your feet. That's the house you live in. And if you're ever in a position like this, man, where where your brand and your bottom line are independent of each other, it's the most liberating feeling in the world.
It's
but
so
back to
interesting,
but
Jay.
I'm going to finish with
we gotta
Mark
talk more about that.
by
Yeah,
saying
yeah.
Mark. I mean, it's not like he did it intentionally, but him not considering me means that I didn't do enough for someone to say I want Jason.
That's right.
So between now and next year,
what's
I'm
great
just,
is you get to keep grind. You get to keep grinding. You get to keep working. You get to keep getting your face out there and your name out there, and eventually he'll know.
I enjoy it.
It's such an interesting thing you say. Like the freedom. Like reality is like I have this company separate from volleyball. I do virtual science labs. I've been a scientist my whole life, and I worked with my folks for a long time. They retired, and I run the company now independently of them. But the point is. And my wife has an amazing candy company, Climate Candy and all that. So for us, for me, volleyball is such a passion. Like, so for example, like I am not a professional volleyball coach. That's the first thing I'll say to anybody. And I coached
You're a winner.
and I coached in the Olympics because I said to my guys as an assistant to Dan Wayner, who's freaking amazing, by the way, Dan, you should see the work this guy puts in and the intelligence he has in the game. Just getting to know him over the last 2 years has been he's the man. Dan Wayner is the man.
We're going to call him Dan the man.
Dude, the guy is a grinder and just knows the game. But the point is, so Chase and I have this relationship and I was able to travel with them. And I just became that guy that could do anything that was needed to be done because I knew my brand and my what did you call the other part?
Oh, bottom line.
Bottom line, yeah.
Bottom line's
they're separate. Like I already have, I'm taking my business is good, everything's fine.
It was like Joe Rogan with Fear Factor.
Right.
Right?
Like
he has FU money and he can start going.
I just know that I could be a part of volleyball and put as much time into it as I want without endangering my bottom line. So to me, I love volleyball so much. And it's funny, I don't know how it happened. I was playing volleyball in high school as like on a whim, like buddies of mine were like, hey, you should try the volleyball team. And here I am like, I'm on the chess team. I'm on the math team. Mm-hmm. I'm a state champion in the science competitions. That's what I was the biggest nerd in the world. And I hated sports and I hated athletes, honestly, because I was bullied and picked on by athletes my whole life, right? And I'm like, I'm not ever going to play sports. In my head was the mentality at like 14, 15, right? And my buddy comes to me and goes, you know what? You'd like volleyball. And I go, I don't play sports. He goes, no, we're all going out for the volleyball team. You got to go. And we're in Boston, volleyball's not cool, and no one who's a good athlete plays volleyball, basically.
Right.
So, like, it was an opportunity for me to get involved in a sport, so I did. From the beginning, I went, this is so freaking cool and fun and interesting. And that's so I play like my junior year, and I go out for this Bay State Games team. We have you have the same thing, Empire State Games.
Right.
In New York. We have these things. I don't know if California has this, but we're back in Boston. There's like these regional all-star teams of high school kids that play each other as a fun thing in the summer.
It really is.
I didn't make the team, but that moment changes my life because I decide I'm going to try to get better at this every day and see what I can do with volleyball. Very short. I'm trying to make this short. I ended up being an all-star, a state all-star my senior year, and all that, and being really good locally. I play on the club team, whatever. I go to Brown. I play club. I end up being a captain on my club team at Brown, and we win our league and all this kind of cool stuff. And then I come to California, and I see, oh, wow, this is really what volleyball is.
It's mind-blowing.
It's mind-blowing the difference. I'm out at Marine Street in my first summer here trying to play and just getting beat down by old, like, 60-year-olds who are just poking the ball over my head. You know what I mean? And you start to learn the beach game and get a little better. I'm not a natural athlete. I'm not gifted in any way, but I love the sport, right? I eventually get my AAA one time, which was amazing. Thank God Rosie takes pity on me and says, hey, Ed, let's go play this tournament down the beach when he was 19.
Oh, that's so cool.
But, it's a thing. It's interesting. If you think about the love of the sport, this is a sport where I think unequivocally the people who are participating in it are so passionate about it. The small number of people participate in beach volleyball. Indoor is a huge number, right, of people. Right. Yeah. But I say the beach community is definitely, there's something special, right?
There really is.
And between the pros, the amateurs, the people who play every day, the people who play once in a while, the people who love to watch it, there's this camaraderie and there's this ability to have conversations that I think every day where I live at 16th Street down at the beach, I can go outside and I can chat volleyball with somebody. And so that passion for the game that started for me now 33 years ago about.
Wow. Yeah.
It will probably never go away. It gets more stronger. And then
I'm just doing them. I'm counting the decades in my
I
head.
remember, and it's just like this incredible feeling. So then, I'm working with Chase and Miles doing whatever they need, not expecting anything. And I remember I get called into the office of Sean Scott, and he said, by the way, Ed, if they do make the Olympics, you're going. And I go, are you kidding? I just told him, like, I'm not important. Like, I'm done. I warm them up for matches. I help book plane tickets. You know what I mean?
Do you have any idea of the
out.
value of just?
I just said.
Do you know what peace of mind cost?
Right. Well, and that's the funny thing.
You can't pay for that.
I went to the guys.
But you and Bud and Miles, that's peace of mind.
No,
and volleyball competency. By the way, you know the game. But sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, and that's the point they made to me that I was like, it was a heartwarming moment, or like one of the most incredible moments of my life when they looked at me and went, no, Ed, you don't understand. Like, what you do is really important. And you do deserve to be there if we make it. And they made that. So that moment in Ostrava was like
wasn't that great?
The most incredible moment I can't remember. I mean, look, I got married. I don't have kids, so I don't have that moment.
Okay.
But that moment, Chase and I are watching the phone. We're watching Trevor's match on the phone. And Miles, I don't want to see it. I'm not going to look. So he's over there, and we're watching the phone. And Richie Harrington, who's amazing, who does a lot of video for the team.
Yeah.
And he does Adapt Superwater, which is incredible. Rich is awesome.
And Richie got the shot.
Dude, and he got the shot. He goes, hey, I'm going to video you guys watching the match. I go, cool, man, let's do this. And he's watching, Chase and I are watching, and Miles over there. That moment, we go nuts because all we needed was for Trevor and Theo to lose, right? And it's funny how in that last tournament, they would have needed a finals in an Elite 16 to surpass Chase and Miles' points.
Right.
Trevor and Theo would have needed to make the finals in Elite 16.
Yeah, because you guys did a gnarly frog leap that made them go.
It was a crazy year, but the Norseca was kind of the beginning of it, right? In terms of winning the Norseca qualifier in Manhattan Beach. Mm-hmm. They were still behind at that point, but that changed the mentality. Because you beat Taylor and you beat Trevor and Theo in 2 straight matches, teams that they didn't beat maybe ever before. I'm not sure if they had. I mean, it was just one of those things. And all of a sudden you go, okay, we're getting fifths consistently on the World Tour. They got a number of Elite 16 fifths, and they were getting fifth or better in every challenge tournament they played. Right. So you could see the consistency and the work that they had put in. And then all of a sudden, so previously to the Norseca, by the way, a couple events earlier, Guadalajara, Mexico Challenge, Trevor and Theo won, and Chase and Miles both got insane food poisoning to the point where they needed IV bags in an ambulance. Yeah. They were throwing up so much that they couldn't keep. They actually needed an IV.
Dude, don't touch the lettuce, man. Don't.
It was wild. By the way, it was wild because they're not the only ones who got sick. Lupo got sick. Some of the girls got sick. I remember talking to people and walking around going, "Who? Did anyone else get sick?" And Lupo's like, "Oh, I was throwing up all night." I was like, "Whoa!" So you kind of saw there was this kind of make or break moment where like Trevor and Theo win a tournament, go up by about 600 points, which is a good bit. Right. Out of, roughly 6,000 or 7,000. They're up about 10% on Chase and Miles.
Which is tough to catch
up. That's a lot. That's a lot. You're figuring if you could finish one place ahead of someone, you might gain 110 points or 140 points, depending on the situation. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, we go over to Tepic, the elite tournament, which is next week, and Chase and Miles lose in qualification the Grimald's in a long match, but they're still kind of a little bit from the food poisoning. And Trevor and Theo get like a 9th, which is another gain in points to them. So they go home, and we're all sitting around going, I mean, excuse my language or whatever, but
that's okay. That's what the edit's for.
It's a tough.
we just write a note on that 103. Go ahead.
You go, okay, where are we at with, only maybe 9 tournaments, no less than that, maybe 7 or 8 tournaments left. But this Norseca qualifier is coming up. So,
they're like, wait, that could be one of our top 10 scores.
It's so interesting how that works. You're looking for 12 finishes, and Chase and I talked before the Olympic run, and we're figuring you need at least 600 points, which is a 5th in a challenger, 9th in the elite. You need at least 600 points 12 times. Probably gets you close to going to the Olympics. That's about the borderline. Travis, Moroder always talks about that too. Yep. And I think that was the Norseca ends up. Now look, you're not guaranteed to win when you go down to Dominican Republic because you've got Cuba and you've got Schachter and Dan Deering who are a pretty solid team.
Yeah, Cuba's.
But it's funny because at that Norseca tournament, the Dominicans, we go down there and they end up winning, and Chase and Miles win it. Cuba, by the way, they beat 21-9, 21-17.
Oh, they did, yeah.
And
this is a team that was undefeated in pool play
Cuba
that had a gnarly pool.
Oh, they waxed Andre George. They beat Andy and Miles in 2 straight, right? This is an insane team, but it's funny. Like Chase and Miles just caught fire on a couple matches to win at Norseca, but it's funny because at that Norseca tournament, the same tournament, I watched a team lose a game 21-1. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Norseca is a weird thing. They bring in teams from funny little islands that have never seen a volleyball before. Like I saw this guy, and look, I'm 6'5", I'm kind of tall, I'm walking through the buffet line. There's a guy in front of me, he's got to be like 5'6". He's a short little guy with nice looking guy with curly hair. Yeah. And then I go, hey man, are you here for the volleyball? He goes, yeah, I'm playing. I go, who do you play for? St. Kitts and Nevis or something like that? Or I'm like, oh, that's somewhere down in the Caribbean. Okay. And I'm like, well, who do you got tomorrow? He goes, oh, we got Cuba. And I go, oh, here's the thing. You got to make sure you serve tough, deep middle.
Yeah.
They have trouble with the middle ball. Chase has been jumps or whatever. And I go out and watch the match. And the poor guy loses 21-1. And I'm just like,
okay.
And I'm like, this is the Norseca.
Sounds like great job, coach.
I know, right? I guess my coaching didn't work in that case. But it's
Isn't that crazy? They don't say Leandro has a 1 seed, loses to the 16. Nobody says anything to him. I'm like, you jerks. I'm what time am I? That's the time I'm writing that down for the edit.
But it's funny. It's funny how the Olympic cycle worked. It's funny how that was, and by the way, most international coaches do not travel with their teams to a lot of tournaments, right? Because they lose money and it's a hard thing. USA Volleyball gives some support, right? Mm-hmm. Which is great. And I would say we're somewhere in the middle. If you look at all the federations, some federations like the Dutch, the Brazilians, they have huge money. Russia before the war, right? They have great money for coaches, travel, everything, right?
Yeah.
Some federations give nothing.
It's true.
Germany doesn't do great. They have great teams, but if you get your own independent sponsors in Germany, you have to pay the federation for the right to have sponsorships.
It's why they really only show their face once every 4 years. You only see like their best work at the year before.
Oh, they do great
at the Olympics, and then at the Olympics.
Right, but our federation gives fairly decent support. Now, I don't know if you saw the announcement today that Karch Karai is coaching the men's indoor team now. The men's Olympic team.
Oh.
That was just announced this morning.
Interesting.
So Karch Karai is the new head coach of the men's Olympic team.
Okay.
Spiraw got the CEO job, right?
Okay. So very deserving, by the way. And by the way, as far as like ability and
oh my God,
and the position,
mentality,
that's a match.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew the old CEO Jamie Davis, and Jamie's awesome for what he was. I'm not a volleyball guy per se. Jamie's the guy who brought me onto the board. So I'm on the board of USA Volleyball on the foundation side. But it's interesting. I met Jamie at the World Championships. But the point I'm getting at, the reason I mentioned I love Jamie and he's amazing. But Spiraw is his soul a volleyball guy. Right. And I think you need that to lead USA Volleyball. Yeah. I think that's important.
But not just that. He's as far as his administrative capabilities, he's a good administrator. Yeah. As far as coaching capabilities, X's and O's, very good. As far as being a former player and identifying or whatever, right? So he has like the total package of what Charlie Sullivan would bring as a coach, what I don't know, Justin Stack's wife, Allison Stack for Baruch would bring it as an administrator, right? And of course the talent that pool that is provided by USA Volleyball. It's such a perfect match.
What I love is Spiraw. Apparently, I'm at the gym down at the yard in Hermosa, and it's a great spot. And we had a lot of athletes coming through. Noah Syndergaard's working out there right now, for example. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go see him in the afternoons, no, I didn't say that on live air. It's a secret. And the point I'm getting at is. He called. I see Furby there a lot, Matt Furbinger, and Matt coached at a very high level, assistant with the U.S. national team, head coaching, all that stuff. He called Matt, the day after he was hired to ask him about what he could do for beach. Because Matt knows beach inside and out, played professionally a long time. So I want to hope that Spiraw can understand what is required to raise the development of young men's beach players. Women were great.
Well, Spiraw had his priorities in order, though, because if you remember, while he was UCLA coach or during or before, he was promoting boys volleyball, certain states that didn't have a varsity team or whatever, and this and that. He was hard in the paint for that, and that takes a lot of your time. And then you have to measure: do you have the bandwidth to tackle boys and beach and boys indoor at the same time? And if the answer is yes, it's yes, and if it's no, it's no. But if it's no, we know why. because it's about bandwidth because we know he wants to.
Right.
This at no time
That's
does
the
this
point.
man like not want to. So
that's the point.
I mean, and he's.
To me, also,
I would love for him to come on the podcast because I was
Unreal.
one of his biggest fans, but at the same time, I was also one of his biggest critics. I really on social media, I really gave him the business in 2016 for like starting Russell over Pretty and this and that, and just watching Russell want out of that game against the Italians.
I mean,
all right,
look, too,
this is the
hard
podcast
for our
where we
Americans, right?
no, but this
It's
is the
hard for
podcast
our
where we
boys.
compliment people, but
Yeah,
we also
we're real.
We also got to be
You gotta be real.
Yeah.
The point I was just thinking of as you were mentioning that was think about with this bronze medal that we got, and then we had another one. We had golds in the past, whatever it was. Boys is a lot harder than women indoor too.
Yeah.
Right, guys. We only have I want to say about 50 D1 schools playing men's indoor right now.
About that.
Is that right? We have 1,000.
Well, D1 and D2 are together.
Oh, that's right.
Right.
They made that change. Okay.
Well, Lewis is D2. Consider that, and they're in the finals.
Lewis
they're always
is
in the
D2.
finals. Yes.
Wow, I didn't know that at all.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's
Cal Baptist came in
You
as
ever remember
D2,
Ryan
and
Stuntz?
Concordia
You know a guy
and
named
Concordia Irvine is
Ryan
D2.
Stuntz, who won a championship with Lewis, who's
Yeah.
a local guy here from South Torrance, one of my old friends.
Yeah.
The point I'm getting at is, so it's hard enough to develop indoor men's talent because we only have so much feeding that. Women is just going to be overflowing.
Right.
And now that we have pro leagues here, I think Love, it sounds like, is going to do really well. I don't know a lot about the different leagues, but I see that some of our women are coming home and playing. And I saw the salary range published as anywhere from like 60 to 175.
Okay.
For this year on Love, which means you could be a first year player and make a decent living if you're not living in Southern California. And if you're a star player like a Carly Lloyd who's going to go play in Austin, right, as a setter, McKibben, Riley's wife, who's unbelievable. By the way, I've never seen anyone in such ridiculous shape after having a baby in my life. She is like
Shit.
She's
my
like
wife,
the
dude.
Shredded wheat.
My wife, man. She
You know what I mean?
had a baby and it's like, oh look,
Pop
I got my
back, like,
6-pack back. I'm
isn't
like,
that-
don't. Well,
dude.
I'm like, do not tell your girlfriend.
Yeah, no. You
That's
don't wanna
not
share
something
that.
you share that with
No,
me.
no,
but we keep
that's-
that in
that's
house.
family
You
in-house.
don't want a bunch of girls to
Yeah.
get together and be like, we hate her.
But so like a Carly can go down
Yeah.
to Austin and probably make that higher end of that salary scale, and
I
to
think
not
so.
have to go to Turkey and play and uproot your family or Italy every
Mm-hmm.
year is probably pretty amazing. I think we're building something here. So women, I'm confident they'll continue to dominate, right? Beach now look, if someone says to me, oh, our beach women didn't do that well in the Olympics, I say, well,
Yes, I did.
Well, we won the World Championship. We won the last 2 World Tour finals. So in the biggest money tournaments, we're winning. And the Olympics,
We had 4 teams in the top 25.
Right.
So we were there
Right.
the whole time. And the
Right.
Olympics is about the perfect storm.
Yeah.
You want me to say something controversial?
Exactly. Yeah.
Alex and April, I didn't think they were the best team going into that Olympics.
Right.
I did not. I thought it was the Aussies and I thought it was the Canadians.
Right.
But you know what? They're in this category of good enough because at that level, championships are not decided by blowouts. They're decided by 2-point victories, though Alex and April did have the gold medal match, right?
And even the semis was a blowout.
No, but with the gold medal match
medal
being the exception that rewrites that rule,
It was a beatdown.
right?
Yeah, it was a beatdown.
But with the gold medal match being the exception that rewrites that rule.
I think it's interesting.
When you think about all these little games that are decided by 2, well,
Right.
where
Think about what a missed serve can do to you in a game like that, or a couple missed serves
but
can do to
at
you.
that level,
Right, at
I'm
that
trying
level.
to tell everybody,
Right.
championships are decided by 2 points.
2 points.
For the most part.
It's if you make that dig, but you don't
Yeah.
put the transition ball away. There's so many interesting things. Like you watch what teams did. Coming
about
down
that.
the stretch and learning and improving, right? So my experience is mostly on the men's side. So if I use a microcosm, Andy and Miles, right, with their style, came out in 2023 and just were going gangbusters, right? And I don't know what happened with them and why they made some weird adjustments, but they're still an incredible team.
Well,
right?
the other teams cracked the code a little bit too. So let's
That's
we
definitely
can go
true.
with that.
They learned to serve tough deep balls at Andy, whatever. The point is, like, Chase and Miles, right, running that funky offense. So Miles Evans either running hard past the pin or fast back,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so what's the game today? It's don't let the blocker stand in one place and jump and freaking house me, right?
Yeah.
And you have to option, and Chase Budinger hit 900% on option balls this year on the FIVB.
Ridiculous.
So, I mean, so that's the point of the new game, right? So we're looking at teams adjusting, getting better, improving. But then, like, just to get back to Alex and April and their win, I think that when you have an April Ross type of a personality where she has something inside of her that is...
She's in the GOAT conversation, but
For sure.
I didn't want you to break your flow.
No. I was just
that was
thinking
like an
about it.
involuntary
That was great.
reflex for me to say that.
There's nothing like when you see Michael Jordan play basketball, when you see Tiger Woods play golf, and when you see the greatest players, and Carrie, April, there's a couple of them, right?
Jeter,
yeah, exactly. You see these people, when you see April Ross in that moment of the Olympics that she knows she's been working years because she doesn't have a gold yet, but her and Alex Kleinman, and again, you were right. They up that year and a half. They hadn't.
I'm not saying they weren't top 5. I'm just saying they weren't. They
might have been top 3. They definitely hadn't won all these tournaments like some of the other tournament teams had, right? They had some 9s, they had some 5ths. They were kind of in the mix.
They're the reason that Sponsel and Clay's got in. Right? There's a third game where it looked like, I'm like, yo, why are you not the best version of yourself against your own home? What's going on right now, guys? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
You ain't my pick to win the gold.
And
there are a bunch of liars out there. Ed, anyone that says that they saw that game against Australia,
right?
It was one of the games of 21-11.
No.
Who? Go ahead. Where's my camera? No. Go ahead, you bunch of liars.
There was no one.
Go ahead, you. Oh, I knew the whole time.
No.
Man, kiss my. You did not know the whole time.
Nobody would have predicted that. I mean, it's
writing that down.
It's amazing how April Ross. That's what makes you the GOAT, though. That you get into the biggest game ever and you destroy, and you have the mentality, the mindset to kill, right? And so that kind of wraps back around to that old school, new school thing, right? And it almost reminds me, 16th Street Hermosa, I just had another weird thought. Any of you guys who are in the old school game, or I know some old school people watch this podcast, Scott Ayakatubby, a good friend of mine, who was our guy at 16th Street, and won a number of tournaments, but he was the guy who maybe didn't have as much of the killer instinct as a Hovland or as a Karch, right? Because he would get into a lot of tournaments before he played with Karch. He got a lot of seconds and thirds. Right.
But in this generation, he'd be considered a hitman for hire.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead.
Right. And that's the interesting thing, right? Oh, what do we got going on now?
That's my thing, not on Do Not Disturb. Sorry.
Oh, okay, gotcha. No worries, dude.
That was our ESPN moment.
I love it. So like, it's ironic how you can be incredibly physically talented and incredibly hardworking and diligent about your preparation and your training, but that's what separated April and Alex. That when they got in the moment, they were crushing, right? And so, and funny, look at Sweden in this Olympics. But
that's
shaky.
Every Olympics for April, though.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
there was a silver.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say she dragged Jen Kessie with her kicking and screaming. Kessie balled out too, right?
The bronze with Carrie was a little funky, but I mean, I think
that was can go another way too.
It could have gone another way too. I mean, that's a great finish, by the way.
Yeah. And Germany was the right result.
Yeah.
They Vulcan Horse and Ludwig played their best volleyball of their lives.
Kira got everything out of herself, and now she's so injured she's never going to play again. Right? No. It's funny how that works too.
To her, it's worth it.
Yeah, it is totally, and it's interesting, right? Volleyball. Most people say, "Oh, beach volleyball." You can play for your whole life, right? But these top pros, they train hard, and if your body can't handle it, especially the Brazilians, right? It's funny. 2012, I go down to Brazil. Chicao. Obviously like Ticao, I guess in Brazil, Chicao, the coach he's kind of he played professionally. He used to coach in the 2000s. He was up in the U.S. coaching.
Right.
And he went back to Brazil about 2011, 12, and I was hanging out with him. And so I fly down there and hang out with him, and I watch some of the training they do down there. They're training 3 hours on the beach in the heat. They're going to lift. They're training another 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon. They're doing this 6 days a week. I'm watching Pedro Salgado, and at the time it was Marcio, who was playing just for a short time.
Sicoli?
No.
Marcio. Gotcha.
Marcio, the silver medalist.
I got you.
So Marcio and Pedro are playing the lefty, and I'm watching their training, and I'm like, oh my effing God, these guys are freaking ridiculous. Yeah. And no wonder the Brazilians of that era were dominating, men and women, because their training was insane. But on the flip side, a lot of their players were retiring early, their bodies couldn't handle it. Pedro,
because we trained like idiots back then, dude. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. The other Pedro Cunha retired in 28 or 29. Body broke down. Can you imagine a pro athlete in sand volleyball which is soft on your joints.
It's supposed to be more forgiving on your back, your knees, you're hitting
down
shoulder
before you even get to 30.
Yeah.
But so it's interesting. You're right. We've evolved, but there is the argument, right? When the foreign guys come to Hermosa to train, and a few of those guys have stayed with me over the years. I'm close with Alex Rangeri, and I'm close with the Latvian guys, and they say to me in the afternoons, "Where is everyone? Where are all the U.S. guys? Shouldn't they be out here like doing some individual skill drills or something?" I said, "No, we train 2 hours in the morning, and then they go home and they get their lift in, and then they go play video games or whatever they do. Yeah, they have work to do. Maybe some of them have work to do. I don't know. But you get my point. Is like it's interesting.
There's a different level of hunger.
What works for us though, and our athletes tend to be older, right? So maybe that's what we need to do. But it is different because when Lupo came out with Rangeri it was a couple winters ago. They would do their morning 2 hours, and then they each had individual in the afternoon every day. So it was, maybe it's serving, maybe it's passing, maybe it's setting, maybe it's some block work, maybe it's some defense work. And it's interesting. I'm not saying it's more successful or less successful, but I think the U.S. men at least need to have a strong look at themselves and figure out how we can develop young players and what our training is. And does it benefit us? Here's the question I want to really think about going forward. The indoor team,
or just throw it out there for the fans.
Here's something I have.
Or for me.
Here's something I have for you and for the fans that I've been thinking about a lot lately because it's been brought up to me by other people, especially foreign coaches. They say your indoor national team in the U.S. If you're on the team, you get a salary. Here's your coach. Here's when you train. Here's when you lift. Here's your nutritionist. Here's when you go get treatment, and you're all set. That's it. And we even have a place for live for you in Anaheim. Right, if you need it.
Boom.
So that's our indoor team. Bronze medal for the women, silver medal, right? Life is good. Now on beach, here's a monthly stipend. If you're, if you're good enough, that's good. If you're good enough, here's your stipend. But pick your own coach, pick your own partner. When you train, if you feel like it, you don't have to do anything if you really don't want to. As long as you have some results, we'll keep supporting you. And so my question is it which model is more successful? Can the indoor model be translated to beach? Because that's what the Dutch guys do. The Brazilians, for the most part, right? Those guys aren't saying, "I don't feel like practicing today."
No.
You know what I mean? Or, I'll go for an hour, but no one signed up to practice with us, so we're just going to do a little stuff and get off the beach.
Yeah. Also consider this. Consider the mentality of the Eastern European sports culture, right? Like I was doing this with Dane and I did this accent. It's like none of this stand in the corner and take time out business. He says, we'll bring up your boys the traditional manner by making them learn Latin and beating them half to death in a single sex environment. Say it with me. You need a coach.
It's right.
So I mean, like Tina, right? Seems like the nicest girl in the world, but you know the path in Latvia. That aren't that like the way they sharpen their iron.
And for a long time, that was Samoilov's dad. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and
her godfather, Oldest Lucis, is my mentor. That's the connection. There's a guy named Oldest Lucis.
Oh yeah.
And he was a wrestler at UCLA, and he taught me how to coach from the neck up. So there was a connection there.
Sasha's dad, Alex Samoilov, his nickname Sasha. His dad was kind of the head coach for the federation, right?
Yep.
And he coached Tina and he coached Alex and Giannis, and for a while they've changed, since then. There's been other coaches, but that is the old school style, right? The Russian sort of mentality, right? Because their family has Russian roots. So interesting though, right? I don't know if it works for the U.S. players. I don't know if we would accept that. I think younger players who haven't known anything else could, but I think the older players wouldn't ever do it.
Yeah, I don't. Well, I mean,
but I mean, if the funding was there, so that's the big if is if the beach program says, "Hey, look, we're ready to give you a full-time enough salary so that you can support yourself, but the trade-off is we're going to give you a coach. We're going to suggest a partnership. You don't necessarily have to do it, but we think this is your best partnership. We're going to give you training blocks." And you're going to train at this time and lift at this time. We have our trainer in the gym. And by the way, the trainers at USA are awesome. Miles and the guys over there are amazing. Nice. I spent a lot of time with them and just watching them do their work, when we were over in Paris and other places. So I think I personally would accept it if I was a young player because I say, hey, look, they're taking care of me financially. The trade-off is, and that's what the indoor guys do, right?
Right.
But it's a different equation because they make all kinds of money playing overseas and we don't really have that.
Okay.
So...
Yeah.
What's the answer?
Well, we stumbled onto this subject matter of the conflicting forces of tough love versus growth mindset and this and that. And I will suggest to you, based on my experience, and I'm only speaking to my wheelhouse as a longtime coach at every level, Division 1, 2, 3 beach, former player, former pro player for like a cup of coffee. Yeah. So someone very much like you that's kind of been everywhere. So I'm speaking from my own wheelhouse. Championship teams, no championship team exists exclusively or one or the other. You might have a boom period of guys where they're so talented it didn't matter how you coach them, they're going to win anyway, right? For example, the 84 team.
Or the indoors teams. Yeah,
the 88 team, you had Dunphy like innovate their offense a little bit, but the 12 Californians were going to have you in, they were going to have you in the semifinal situation to win to get into the gold medal round, or 92 where they played Cuba for the bronze, but they lost. They ran into a buzzsaw in Brazil with Marcelo Negrão and Maurizio Lima, who's coming up and one of the best setters in the history of setting. So no championship team exists on one or the other. Dane Blanton's a 4-time champion right now. He's all 4 years as a coach. Don't think Dane's a nice guy in that whole season. Don't think that nice little surfer dude, right? You hear him on the microphone, right? If you never met Dane, you're like, that dude's got bleached blonde hair. He's got blue eyes, and we have to change our momentum a little bit. So him and Jeff Samuels actually have that kind of like, I'm not gonna say white guy twang, but like this.
But then you get him on the court.
But then
both those guys, and you get the competitor, right?
Yes. Yeah. So my suggestion is that and I think that's what puts April in that GOAT conversation. Think about all of the types of people that she had to exist under as a coach or under guidance. Think about the people that she had to play with and against, indoor and beach or whatever, and this and that. Mm-hmm. She knew the road to the gold medal match was Kerry Walsh until she teamed up with Kerry Walsh.
And by the way, that whole time in her career, Kerry and Misty are just destroying, and she's got to be like, okay, I know I'm that same level, but there isn't another Kerry and Misty for me. Yeah,
so, there's a bunch of teams like John Mayer is the epitome of growth mindset and positive reinforcement, and because of that, he'll always be in the mix. But I don't think he's going to win one.
Right. And by the way, ask him about Pierce Junior College. Yeah. Ask him about his Pierce Junior College teams. Yes. So he was setting Clint Coe ended up being a starter at Long Beach State. He had a guy named Pedro Leal who was bouncing balls to the ceiling.
That wasn't Riley Salmon there too, was it?
I
wonder.
Maybe that was a little after Riley. Right. Riley was at Pierce. I think that was a little after Riley because we're talking about 2000. 2001, 2002, probably.
Yeah, and John was at Pepperdine in 2002.
After Pierce, right? So that would have been like 2003, 4, I think. Because let's see, Clint and him were together at Pierce, and Clint went to Long Beach in 2003. So, or maybe 2002. Gosh, I remember going to a game up there and watching John set. It was about 2001. My buddy Trent Turner was playing at El Camino, so I went and saw El Camino play Pierce.
So cool,
dude. John's team was ridiculous. Honestly, I think they won a state title. This guy Pedro, this Brazilian guy named Pedro Leal,
didn't have an answer for him.
Was literally bouncing balls to the ceiling in the game. It was ridiculous. But El Camino's never that good. I think maybe they have been lately. I don't know.
Well, they'll win the CUNYs. They'll win the City University championships on the East Coast. They bake Baruch or Hunter.
But it's just so. I mean, imagine. Pierce has had a lot of guys. Like, didn't Barnett go to Pierce too?
Maybe. I don't know.
I think he did. I think Kevin Barnett was there too. Anyway, Pierce had a lot of.
That's another guy who.
I love Kevin. Dude, I had a great taxi ride with him on the way to Chicago this year.
Like as a player, that great mentality.
Dude, and a guy
team player and a killer.
And by the way, a guy who came from the Chicago area, right, Midwest to Manhattan Beach.
Yep.
As a late teenager, and went down to Marine Street, and he was a big, strong athlete, and learned real quick, and then got to play beach, and then became a great indoor player, right, an Olympian.
Yep.
But I mean, there's a guy. If you want to have a great conversation about what can be improved about the game, he can. Yeah.
His mind works really well. I've always been open about how much I love his indoor commentating. I think he's basically God, and in many ways he's as far as favorite commentators, he surpassed Paul Sunderland, and which is a huge hill to climb because because Marlowe and Sunderland were the measuring stick.
By the way,
and how the others want to compare.
Whole deal I was just giving you about the salary and the beach, that all came from a conversation I was having with Barnett in the taxi to Chicago. I had not really thought about it specifically in that way, and he kind of brought that up, and I went, wow, that's actually, like, would they be willing to give up their autonomy if they were getting money at a reasonable level, right? So anyway, Barnett.
What elite
Kevin,
athlete wouldn't? What elite athlete wouldn't? That
Right,
makes sense.
right. It makes sense.
They didn't even take like a Kevin Barnett degree to
But it's funny how if you were to go poll the men's beach players, I think the young women would say yes for sure. But I think the young men players, I'm not sure. I wonder. I'm curious.
And you know the cool thing about Kevin is, and and again, he probably doesn't like me because I was one of his biggest critics on the beach. I'm just like, dude, what are you even talking about? No one gives a crap. And it's weird because I feel like I'm dissing him on one line and complimenting him on the next. But that's what being real is. You don't not having a set of rules for people you like and you don't are consistent. But I will say this: the man listens to everybody. Yeah. He decides for himself what's right and wrong, but he doesn't like not listen. He doesn't stop listening.
By the way, speaking of, you've been watching the AVP lately, the league, the last couple weeks, dude. Casey Patterson, obviously a buddy of mine, but I think is fantastic.
Listen, but he needs a setup guy. He
ain't
doing that.
Look,
he ain't doing that without a camera or someone to punch.
For sure, Richie,
someone
Cam, and Richie's another person. I think there's people who just have that magic. Like Casey to me has a magic when they have him out in the crowd.
Be positive people, now. Are you sure we want to stay on this subject matter? No, but you were talking about Casey.
Casey Patterson to me is one of the most amazing human beings. But his energy, the way that he can talk about volleyball and what he brings enthusiastically is infectious to me.
Do you know how I knew he'd be well at this?
Yeah.
We are in Huntington Beach. This is a FIVB, like a co-promotion thing. And you remember back in the day, I was just standing behind cameras that I put on tripods and just yapping behind it, trying to like get my brand or whatever. Yeah. So I think it was a match with Slick, Stafford Slick, and I forgot who he was playing with in 18, but
probably
Billy Casey
Allen
comes up next to me and says, "Hey, how's it going?" Right, and whatever. And then he's like, "So, what do you think of this?" And then I start talking about volleyball, and then he and I start breaking down the match and this and that. And the next thing you know, there's a crowd of people that were standing behind us, just listening to the conversation with me and him. And I'm like, and I said to myself, this is 2018. I said, if this guy, if he has someone like Kevin, someone like Cameron, someone not another color commentator. I mean, with respect to Rich, not Rich.
Right.
You know, Rich is
also the
Rich
color
is
guy.
that Patterson.
Yeah, he's the color guy.
He is, and
I love him in that role.
Yeah, I don't. I think he's a little dry, but you know what? To each his own. And if everybody else likes him, who am I, right? But it doesn't mean I don't respect him. There's guys. And if everybody listening, me being real is not a disrespect. It's everybody belongs here. Everyone belongs here. Maybe I'm resentful. Maybe I'm jealous because I feel I belong there too. And maybe there's a little bit of that too. And that's where my self-honesty comes into play. But back to Patterson, I knew that just that conversation. I'm like, he gets someone to punt it to him like Madden. Like Madden had Summerall. You know, like Madden was so good. Even when they did that movie, remember The Replacements? There's a movie with Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, that's right.
He's like, is that guy smoking on the field? That guy, like the kicker.
Oh, yeah.
Like smoking, put out the cigarette and kicked like a 60-yarder. So, Aaron.
We got questions.
We were on to what kind of incentive can the AVP create for younger players? And we were actually dancing with that before we jumped off.
That's what we were talking early on this. I don't know because they're concerned with just getting this business model right now. I think the problem that Wex is bringing up right now is probably one that we're going to be talking about for the next couple of years, is that they need to be able to develop younger players or the league will go away because a lot of the players right now are close to retirement age. Right. How long is Billy Allen going to play for?
But that involves not Bally's. You can't have Bally's and have kids up in this joint.
But so the league has to get settled and start working its magic and be successful first.
Right.
And then they have to think about, well, where do young players come from?
Right.
And obviously for women, it's easy. They can pull them right out of college. No problem. Done. Right. But I think with men, with the boys, I don't see an easy answer to that question because they're incentivized to put a league out there, but they don't have a feeder for that league. So, right. Because every other sport, whether it be football, basketball, baseball, any of the major hockey, there's always somewhere that feeds the professional leagues, right? Whether it be college, whether it be minor leagues. So maybe there has to be some kind of minor league. And that's kind of what I was talking about with Paauluhi or Luau's, tournament that he ran last year, that there could become Wapaka, you could do, Florida money tournaments, things that there some kind of money related minor league.
Right.
There has to
Well,
be
when
enough,
it becomes a business.
But can AVP help
Right.
with that? I don't know
No.
if they're incentivized to right now, and I don't think they will.
No, it's got to start with high school and college, right?
Yeah.
Like think about, like I said, when beach became an NCAA sport,
Right.
it became a business. Not only a business exclusively, but there was a business end of finding a way for your girl to get a free ride for whatever, right?
And that's
then
huge.
for a long time was
that's
4.5 scholarships, but I
Right.
think there's an initiative where they're going to do 18.
What, really?
They're trying to pass an initiative for 2015 and 2016.
How's that going to work with Title IX, though? I mean, because you got to balance the scholarships out,
I know.
right? So, and remember, I went to Brown University, which is where the Title IX lawsuit
Right.
happened, and our volleyball coach for girls there, or women.
Yeah, but
she was
that's
the
an
one who did
Ivy,
it,
and they don't know for scholarships anyway.
Well, isn't that funny? But it wasn't because of that.
Right.
It's an equal athlete thing, right?
Right.
And I thought, maybe I'm wrong about the equal scholarship thing, but I thought that's what Title IX did. Everyone talks about football having 80, 100 scholarships, and then
Right.
having to balance that out with all the number of women's teams. Maybe it's the athlete number. The point I'm getting at is you cannot add men's sports, right? You're only adding women's sports as long as Title IX exists.
Well, yeah.
And that's so where can we get?
No, but they're passing an initiative for women too.
Oh yeah,
They're doing it for both sexes. They're
Oh, is
doing
that
18
right?
for both.
18 scholarships.
Yes.
For indoor volleyball.
For indoor volleyball for men's and
Wow.
indoor volleyball for
That'd
women.
be amazing.
Because before I think it was like 12 and the other one
And
was 4.5.
4.5 for men, 12
But
for
I
women.
saw a list of all the NCAA sports. And Rob Sparrow, if you're listening to this, please help me with this, because I think
didn't
you're
know
the one
this.
that reposted this and like just had my New York wheels grinding. So
I mean, if we can add, I just beach for men would be so cheap and easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
They already have the facilities, all the schools. They've already built the courts. Sand court experts.
Nice.
Paauluhi has already been out there building all the courts, right? And so how hard would it be to add men's beach, or boys or men, however you call it, beach volleyball?
Right.
It would require a coach who's already could be the women's coach,
Right?
Because it's a different season. And
if your school has a campus,
a small number of athletes, let's say you don't give scholarships.
Right.
You already have courts, you already have balls, you already have facility. But then again, we get into Title IX issues.
and if your school has a campus, build it, right? You got a football field, you got tennis courts, you got swimming pools, for Christ's sake, which require 10 times more maintenance than bringing in sand, we consider expensive. So for sure.
And I feel like sand women is exploding, right?
Yeah.
I feel like it's
What
going
became again
wildfire,
NCAA was the segue
Right.
to whatever. And again, I witnessed it with my own two eyes because I stumbled upon it. I Forrest Gumped it, right place, right time when I joined Endless Summer Volleyball.
Right.
And MB Sand got big. Their club got bigger. Who else was there? Elite was kind of stayed small, like we did, but like all of these clubs got big. And Duran was like, no, we're staying. She says the only way we can compete, because you have Dodd.
You were more boutique.
Yeah. Well, that was the only way we could compete, because when
yeah.
you have bigger names, these former players who people assume are great coaches because they're former players,
right?
You can't mess with that. So you have to have, like you said, like your own niche. So our niche was one coach for every 3 or 4 players.
That's awesome.
And we'll name. I mean. I was gonna do my camera on the wall, but we'll name it. We had Pompeo. There's Jaron Barreto there. There's Andrew Dentler, Rob McLean.
Rob's awesome.
Savage. I mean,
awesome.
Rob's a skill Nazi,
He
by the way, he got that from Oz Borges, who was also one of our coaches.
I played a million games of 4-man with Oz.
Talk about a skill Nazi, though, right? Talk about like a skill set.
You want to talk about like? Here's the interesting thing about Oz Borges. You ready? Not only was he Cuban national team player as a junior at the junior level.
Yep.
Also, he's an incredible setter. Also, he was a starting outside hitter on a second place 6-man team at the Manhattan 6-man, and could only jump like 5 inches, right?
Yep.
Because he's not training, but he starts on a 6-man team, and this is with Miles and Mesco and some of the other guys, and they get second, and Oz is unstoppable against monster college superstars.
He's got the Queen's wrist.
Yeah, he's got the wrist, exactly.
Yeah, like some of my gay friends in New York said Oz had the we call the Queen's wrist.
Oz is incredible.
Yeah.
So amazing. And
when you don't have a good vertical, you got to
right. You got to do
everything else has to be perfect.
I love Oz.
Yeah,
I haven't seen him in so long. Oz, come back 16th Street if you hear
this. Yes, Oz.
Come say hi.
And Oz is a good club coach because there are girls who went off and played college, right? And there are girls who want to whatever, right? And their parents show up to the game. The college coaches show up to the game. All these people jumping in front of the parade of their success. But when the girls look in the crowd and they see Oz there, they lose their ash.
Wow.
Oh my God, Oz, right? It's like Stein's right there. That's your coach. Or Dane's right there.
No, but Oz
that's how you know.
He was amazing.
But that's how you know you're a real one. When they weave through all of these great faces and they see you and they just whatever. And I've only had that once. Oz got that from all of the girls.
Yeah.
I only got that once. Her name is Kaylee Jones. She went to Long Beach State.
On.
And when she was with her friend, she saw me. She had coffee in her hand. She went, Jason, and like drenched her two friends, with coffee. It was just, and I was like, I love it.
You know what the college and the club on the girls' side makes me think of? It makes me think of the ecosystem that's been built around that. So now all the local coaches can do private lessons because the parents are thinking, oh, I'm saving money because I'm going to get a scholarship.
Yep.
It pays for itself if my daughter gets good enough.
Yeah.
And so you see this incredible ecosystem here in Hermosa, Manhattan. Coaches are charging hundreds of dollars an hour for private lessons.
It's why the kids cost more money than the adults do.
I tell my friends overseas in other countries, the top pro guys who play, like Rangary, who was just staying with me the other night, and I told him about this. He looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, no, you don't understand. Coaches are literally charging $200 an hour, the top pro coaches, to coach privates with the local kids, girls. Yeah. And he's like, I want to move here for the winter. Can I move here for the winter and just coach private lessons? I go, dude, if you're willing to do it and grind and get, but it's work. Obviously, you got to get your clientele. But the point is, this is what happens, around the sport. Yep. And it's really interesting. And that's why our women's game is going to be epic for
it really is.
Forever.
Well, and at some point, like, when you have all the resources and here you're not winning here, you're not winning there. You know what? Mm-hmm. That is a challenge to everyone out there that's taking all this money for private lessons, taking all this money with this club and this and that, and say you need to reinvent your games and you need to mind your cues, or maybe possibly get over yourselves and put some real work in. Because like I said, if there are girls that are weaving through that crowd and they see Oz, right? Even though all of those coaches had played a hand, right? In their success. Yeah, do you see what I'm getting at? Like for me, like Natalie Miskowski.
Yeah,
plays at UCLA.
Great player.
She's had Stein. She's with Elite Beach her senior year before she went to college. Yep. She's had Pompeo, but guess who she remembers? Me. And her mom and Catherine, because I brought an element of New York.
Nobody cares.
Work harder mentality to it. That came from an otherwise entitled.
This is kind of that
surrounding.
Feeling here sometimes, right, in the South Bay, because there's a lot of money here. There's a lot of really successful people. It's funny. It was a short period of time. I was a high school teacher at Miracosta High School. I taught chemistry and physical science for 1 year, and that's what you kind of learn when you teach at a local high school in a community like this that is very affluent. Is that you want to impart that work harder attitude, but that's a challenge, right? Because a lot of kids are just going to
that's why everyone's not qualified to be a coach.
Right.
It takes someone that has experience to know how to talk to someone, to diagnose. It's like being a doctor. I tell people, you look at all these scientific studies about the body and performance, but you're dismissing the fact that some of the best scientists are the coaches.
Yeah.
Grab that thing behind you that says OPP. See that box?
Yeah.
I'm coaching evolution. I'm coaching a 14s team that doesn't even know positions, right? So you know what I did? Because we had 4 practices before a tournament. I had a bunch of kids that couldn't serve over, and if they could serve over, they couldn't defend. And on serve receive, they couldn't pass, and if we could pass, we couldn't set. And by some miracle, we got a set. We had kids that couldn't hit. So what I did was I got these, and I printed NB, OH, right, setter, so we can learn rotation right away. And I put them on, and I dropped them on the court. So I'm like, after you serve, just go behind that box. After you serve on, so I had one side for serve receive, like OH1, OH2, and so that was me.
Yeah, you're just building that pathway in the mind.
But that was just the physical. We were. I didn't mean to stumble off about the conversation about the neck up.
That's good.
Presenting a kid their options. If you have someone that sees a ball that they could pursue and stop, there's a way an experienced coach knows how to talk to that personality. For example, me, I will be like, so give me a percentage. If you went, what's the probability? Right. What percentage that you would touch that? And I'm like, what, 30, 20? Yeah, more like 10. 10? 15? Let's go 15? 15. Here's my second question. What percentage probability if you don't go at all?
If you don't go. Right.
She's zero. And I'm like, it's
that's
zero.
a strong
And then you
message.
tell a kid, hey, let's play our
Right.
numbers. And
Right.
that's a psychological motivation of tough love.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, they feel like you're not being tough with them because you literally had them self-diagnose.
Yeah.
And put that pressure on themselves where you're like,
That's a good psychological twist, right?
but that's just an
Yeah,
example
it's a
of
good
examining a
psychological
certain
twist.
personality. And I'm reflecting, of course, on a
Hey,
story of
did we have a
experience.
third question from work?
Yes. Well, first of all, Carl ATX are two of my favorite guys, telling it like it is. But Aaron, I saw your question at the bottom, but I like this one better.
What do we got?
On a business level, the AVP needs a title sponsor. Other than Wilson, which companies would be a good fit and why?
So I'm gonna sort of push back against that a little bit. I think yes, you want a title sponsor and that would be hugely beneficial for them, but I think they're trying to build a business where they're not completely enthralled to the title sponsor, right? And so, cancel the but, and if you're looking at businesses that are congruent with the AVP's current mentality, it's hard, right? Well, someone said something funny to me the other day. They said, beach volleyball, what are you selling? A ball, right? Wilson, right? So what's left?
A yellow backpack?
You don't have, right. You don't have to buy shoes. You don't have to buy gear, golf clubs or a baseball bat or a football, whatever. So the point is like jerseys, all this stuff. So I think the challenge for the AVP is, again, this goes back to merchandising and things. The sponsors for the
Board shorts would be killer.
right, they would be. The sponsor maybe clothing then, right? Could be a title sponsor. But we used to do the beer thing and the alcohol thing because the party atmosphere. And I think they're getting back to that.
Good.
I think the AVP league seems like there's a lot of drinks flowing, there's a lot of fun being had.
And
right?
how is that different than any other sport, guys?
Right. And
I mean,
it has to be,
everyone's
right?
like, oh, drinks this, drinks that. Go to a football game, you dorks.
Right. So major sports who are the sponsors. So look, sort of, I think what the AVP needs to do is do sort of a case study. Okay, who's the big sponsor for golf? Who's the big sponsor for tennis? Well, obviously Mercedes and Rolex and stuff. Don't know that's going to work for us.
Pfizer.
But yeah, I know, right? I mean, yeah, right? Whatever it is. I think that's a great question. I'm not sure I personally currently know the answer, but I'd love to delve more into that.
I would,
You know?
I actually like any health product.
By the way, go
ahead. No,
I
please.
just thought of something. Something just came to me.
Tell me.
Okay, now Wax, as I think about this more, I realize that my wife has these thoughts. She always says travel. So whether it be airlines, hotels, credit cards, she likes those kind of those industries. For sponsoring players individually on their Olympic journeys. That could also be for the tour, right? And I think that works, like, because you've got like Qatar Airways on Manchester United or whoever they sponsor, right? So there's an opportunity because the players are traveling. There's a lot of that involved with any sport. So I think there's some opportunities there. They're big sponsors in every industry. You just have to find the one that works for volleyball.
It's weird because listen, if I'm a guy who owns a Jenny Craig and owns a Dunkin' Donuts, I'm never going to go out of business. All right? So there's nothing wrong with having beer, Bud Light there, right?
Yeah.
And having I don't know. Is it like a Universal Yoga Fitness, Planet Fitness, or something like that?
Or F45,
yes.
maybe something like that.
I will say that again just for fun. I am a
yeah.
rich man if I got two venues
that feed into each other it'd be like an infinite loop, you know.
Oh my
I go
God, you
donut,
got a
I go work out. I go
McDonald's.
donut, I go work out.
You got a McDonald's and you got the funeral parlor next to each other. You got everybody's expenses covered. You know, cool. That's a great question.
Dude, that is a great
So,
question. Where are we at?
let's scroll up. How can players take control of their own attention as pro athletes? Ask Ed to provide some business mindset for players. I'll go first on that.
Yeah.
Evan Corey did a good job promoting himself. Facebook, FaceTime, built his brand, and when it was time for him to shine he did, winning his first bigger AVP in New Orleans with against Rafa Rodriguez and Peter Marciniak with Logan Weber. And from there, he's not had to see a qualifier ever since. The first time I met him was in the qualifier. I was coaching Jake Urrutia and Earl Schultz against him and Kevin Vallela. So that was a playing game in Hermosa Beach. And that was like my
Earl the Pearl.
Yeah, that was my third team I coached into the main draw, but that one was I was proud of because that required real work.
Right.
Rafu, I'm just sitting there chilling. That's right. I'm just like, but your turn.
I think so. Just talk to me about.
Do you want to repeat that
again?
question?
Yeah, go repeat
How can
the
a
question.
player take control over their own attention as a pro athlete? Ask Ed to provide some business mindset for players.
Yeah, so it's interesting, right? The way I feel is that you've got to pay the bills. You've got to get your training in. You've got so much going on. Today's world, social media has changed everything, right? So you have opportunities to connect with local and national companies and brands to promote because you have a platform to promote them. And I think like there's the sphere of being a pro player is not just training, lifting, recovering, eating, sleeping, right? And living your life. Now, because there isn't a lot of prize money, it's become the onus is on the player to now sort of build this ecosystem of revenue generating activity, whether it be, hey, this Buzz Bikes decided to send me a bike and I do a couple videos and that's part of it. Or maybe it's, hey, Cheribundi is going to pay me a little bit of money to promote their recovery drink or whatever it is. So the challenge is...
That's how the UFC did it.
Yeah, right.
Before.
Yeah, right. Building small brands into their model. And I think if you look at a Casey Patterson or before him, Albert Hanneman, there's always been players who are really good at selling themselves. And I'm shocked when I hear players say, I just don't know how to do this. Well, that's fine. It's okay to not to know. Maybe I'm not shocked. Maybe I shouldn't be. But I say, look, you have to sell yourself. That's the first job. And get yourself into a position where you can be financially stable. Or else, you're working a second job that's not going to contribute to your success as a player, which is hard, right? And most players are doing that right now because there isn't much money, right? So if you're not in the top 8 teams, let's say, roughly, then you're hustling. So reduce the challenge of that hustle. And I've seen players do a great job. Albert Hanneman's a good example because, he won the Hermosa Open. But other than that, he basically only had 5th, 9ths, right? And 17ths. So he would go out and say, hey, look, I'm a great volleyball player. I'm good looking. I'm going to win this tournament. You got to give me some money and support me. Somehow he managed to get about 8 different companies to give him money every month to play volleyball. I'm not saying everyone can do that. I'm just saying,
but if that's his gift, if he has the gift of good looks,
right,
use it. Like Gabby Reese, right?
But it's being a salesman too, right? Anybody can sell themselves, and that's part of it. And the other half of it is to sort of efficiently add in some of the coaching, some of the other things that you can do. I mean, I've seen guys who never got an A rating doing 3-4 private lessons a day at $80 an hour. There's a guy in South Hermosa who I love who does that, who's, I'm not going to say his name, but the guy can't get, he plays in qualifiers and gets 8 points, right? He loses 21-8, but he's down there in South Hermosa charging $80 an hour. I don't know if that's the exact number. I think that's what it is. And he's getting clients every day because he knows how to coach and he knows how to sell himself as a coach. Right. So again, I think the answer at the end of the day is, put your fear aside, understand that life, there's challenges, but if you can step up to the mark and give it a go, you'll get better every time you try. And I think, I don't know if I'm off track or if I'm going the right direction.
No.
But it's like, it reminds me of...
It's weird because I feel like we're answering the question, but the question's still out there.
Yeah, I do. I agree. So it reminds me of myself selling science software to schools like I've been doing for 25 years. You walk in, you pitch, someone tells you to get lost. You do it, you do it 3 times a day, 5 times a day, 10 times, whatever. Eventually you get better at it, right? So I think number 1, as a player, you have to figure out what your goals are. Number 2, you have to figure out, how you have to sort of get a roadmap of how I'm going to get there, what different things I need to put together to get there, including, financially and physically and mentally, right? Because then there's that mental aspect. It's a grind. Life is a grind for a lot of people, right?
I also think the reason... Sorry.
No,
the reason why the question's still out there is because the answer is different for each individual.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't mean to make it about me again,
right,
but I got the color commentating gigs because I bought a camera And I went to the beach and I went behind it and I started yapping.
You had a goal.
Noticed.
You had a dream and a goal, an idea that I want to do this and I need to show people.
But I wasn't sure if that was the right way to do it, right?
Right.
Like what was my other choice? Like hand out flyers? I'm a color commentator. We'll work for food.
What's great is you put yourself out there and said, I'm going to try this and I'm going to show it to people and they're going to let me know if it sucks. And then I'm going to get better and then I'm going to try it again and they're going to let me know if I'm any better.
Yeah.
And eventually I'm going to start getting paying gigs.
I am the second most criticized commentator in a sport.
It's great.
Kevin Barnett still got number one. He still
and the great thing about the
all
more
the time.
criticism you get, the better you can be, the better you can improve, the more you can improve.
But that's an example of it's a different answer, right? Like there's someone else that might, like let's say Victoria Dennis, right? She's in her 20s. Maybe she squires for somebody, and that's got or interns for
maybe she
has. So the answer for her is a different path, right? And that will require 5 years, maybe 20 years. Me, I'm 53. I ain't got 20. I don't have 20 years, bro. So,
but here's the thing, right? Is that I think the point there is to put yourself out there. Right, you're willing to put yourself out there and give something a try and take criticism, and be able to take feedback and improve. Right, in all aspects, that's what we all strive to do in life. And I think it's hard for some of us. I know myself. It took me a long time to get to that point of being like, be vulnerable. And when people are telling you this is a problem, don't take it as a criticism. Take it as a chance to get better.
Right.
Don't get upset. Don't get angry, or don't be insulted by the criticism, because a critique is something that is allowing you to improve.
Amen.
Right. That's a challenge for a lot of us, because we're smart guys. We know a lot of things, and we want to feel like people like us. Right. And at the end of the day, that's the point. Is that it's not easy to get negative feedback, but it's growth. And like you said, growth mindset.
Jesus. So here's the next question, and now we're going to do it 60-second answers.
Okay. Yeah, we got to go fast. We're getting on crazy time, huh?
No, I'm actually, I got all day.
Are you good? Okay.
Yeah, the only thing I got is like American Junkie. There's $5 personal pizza. That's like our Thursday family tradition.
Say what now?
Yeah, me and my wife and ever since my kid was born.
They do this?
Yeah.
It's so funny. Ever since it's not sangria anymore. I don't know if you remember. You weren't here for, were you here for sangria?
Yes, and Wings Wednesday.
Sangria used to be the spot all the 16th Street volleyball guys hung out at.
Now this is a fun question.
What do we got?
How will the league? Sorry, where's my mouse? How the AVP league will unfold? Sorry, how will the league unfold is beyond the players' control. How can players focus on what they can control to set them up for more success for the finals in the leagues? I'll go first because I'm doing the sample size for the 60-second countdown. Mm-hmm. All right, so there is value in promoting yourself, which is where we left off, which we're just going to pick up the ball and go with it, okay? Mm-hmm. So with that being said, there is power in something called the wild card. The wild card is code for AVP, saying we do whatever we want, we'll add whatever we want, right? April and Alex got the wild card because they still remain put butts in seats, and it is a chance for like a farewell tour for April Ross, which worked for Kobe Bryant, which worked for Derek Jeter, which worked for Mario Rivera, and that was a smart thing for business. Evan Corey could. If they have a New Orleans team, it would be volleyball malpractice or marketing malpractice to not give him and Alisson a wild card. Yeah. So Evan marketing himself, building his brand in his region, and then bi-coastally and now internationally has helped set up his platform where like you said, the hard work makes some of the ideas come to you.
Yeah.
And I think I answered most of that question. I'm going to land on that and let my man take up the next minute.
The beef. I like the beef.
Horn.
So and I see a different side of this question. Is getting success toward the finals of the league. I think was also along the question, and kind of understanding that only 4 of the 8 teams are going to make the finals, right? So there's a point. I think the league definitely. I'm sort of starting with an aside, which is I think the AVP definitely set things up with an intention
to do like 10. Yeah.
No. I mean the intention of what teams they wanted in the finals. Because no, you're good. Because here's the thing, right? if they went best men's team with 8th women's team and 8th men's team with best women's team, right, we would have had a certain pairings. But as we noticed, Sarah Hughes and Kelly Clays are with Taylor and Taylor, right? And that's the 2nd or 3rd best men's team with probably the 2nd or 3rd best women's team. So there was some imbalance in the creation of the teams. We knew that going in. So I think there's one sort of side of this, setting yourself up for success, is first you got to make the finals, right? And some cities are out of it. I think San Diego Smash has basically a 0% chance to make the last weekend at this point. Oh, and I'm already off time. That's how I do it.
Oh, man.
I didn't answer the question, but
no,
hopefully it was useful.
No, you did. There was a social media question I wanted to jump down
Let's get to it.
Question: how will social media and content creation play a role in the development of the AVP and the league? If I may.
Yeah. You want to go?
I think the first thing they need to do is make sure, if they're able to do this via social media or via YouTube, find a way to live stream as many qualifier matches as you can, right? If they signed a contract with ESPN and this and that, it's a very, very good hook to make sure you have YouTube live.
Except what's a qualifier now? There are no qualifiers.
No, but I mean, you're right. But I mean for like the Gold Series.
Yeah. There is no Gold Series anymore. That's
no, we're talking about the league.
Yeah. There's There's no more tournaments.
Oh, you're right. So
they're not going to only the Manhattan.
So I think I'd like to use the rest of this time to deflect to Ed Keller.
I'll talk a little about the social media side. It's interesting because I've had a lot of. I wasn't much of a social media guy until recently, and I started like putting up a lot of fun on my Instagram just for fun. Oh yeah, write that down.
Yeah. We're writing them.
And what I learn is that social media is kind of an envelope to express your personality. And for people like Troy Field or Casey Patterson or stuff who are very good at using social media, right? That could be a huge benefit for them. So like Troy has not won an AVP tournament, but he has one of the larger social media followings and one of the better engagements of any of the players.
I'd also like to caveat that the tournaments that aren't in the league, the volleyball tournaments that have nothing to do with the league, that are separate of the league.
That's it.
Put yourself on YouTube as much as I can. I think that's what kind of where I was sailing, but his question pertained to the league. And he just asked a follow-up question.
Oh, by the way, and the follow-up to my answer is that notice that the shove had 40 million views for the AVP, right? The shove on Instagram. And
how many views?
40 million. And that was a few weeks ago. I haven't looked in a little
40 million views for that show.
Yeah, it's for the shove. And the AVP has only had one video with more than 1 million views ever before.
Right.
No, it really did.
It's fouling for number one.
It did.
Like and 21 second clip.
No, they had a Taylor Sander something. But
on what outlet?
This is IG. This is not YouTube.
Oh.
So YouTube's the Fallon stuff's YouTube. No, if you look at it, it's there. It's gnarly. The point I'm getting at is, social media is interesting, strange. Like someone shoving someone is more valuable than the most amazing volleyball player ever, ever. Anyway,
that cracked me up, by the way, because like where I grew up, where I grew up.
If you shove someone like that, that guy's going to get up and take a swing at you.
No, you know the crazy thing is, like, I wasn't about that life, but where I grew up, I can look at someone and know who is and who isn't. And I know Bud played with the Nets, and you got to have a little bit of NBA talent to just send a message. Like, even if you get penalized, Bud, that was and it was weird because Bud was always telling Miles Evans, don't let him get to you, don't let him get to you. And he was the one that ended up shoving him.
Because he was defending Miles, right?
Yeah.
That was his defense of his partner, which was so cool about it.
Yeah. But I thought it was an intelligent move because he says, I'm gonna do this once.
I'm deflecting.
I'll take the penalty.
Yeah, I'm taking the penalty.
But at the same time, I sent a message that
this isn't okay.
I'm gonna do it again, and I'll deal with the circumstance, and I'll deal with the consequences.
He was fine with it.
So and it's weird because I didn't even think. Like Trevor was the switch side anyway, so it was kind of the perfect storm.
I don't think Chase and Miles knew the side switch was coming. So like when he got blocked and Trevor came and flexed down in his face a little bit, I think he thought he came under the net. But even though it was a side switch, I don't know. And then Chase kind of bumped him, and then they kind of went, as a whole thing.
The AVP should partner with youth clubs and co-create incentives. As long as the AVP's partnership with Bally's, Aaron, that's not going to happen. Bally's is a betting thing.
I do think
and you can't have kids in betting that you.
Well, Bally's is going to be out of the. I mean, Bally's is barely. They're a part owner at this point, and that's it. They aren't involved in management anymore, so I'm not really sure what their role is, except they're holding equity so that they can make some money back for it.
Right.
I don't think they're really involved with the league anymore, so in any major way. So
nice.
You're not going to see much Bally.
So I wanted to finish because I wrote this down and circled it because I thought we were going somewhere with defining moments, but I wanted to footnote that so we could finish with that.
I love it.
Because at some point we got to get the hell out of here. Right?
I know, right? I'm hungry, man.
Yeah, and I'm fasting. I fast
really?
on. I just started.
I love it.
I did it a few months ago, and I lost 11 pounds, and my energy shot through the roof. So
work,
now,
dude.
I'm
I'm
out of shape right now. So I'm starting every Thursday, Friday, and
Right?
Saturday. I'm fasting.
That's cool, man.
And Sunday is just too much food going on to fast.
I'm on the opposite. I gained 15 pounds in the last 8 months.
And you look great, man.
Trying to gain more weight. So
I saw you with Rangiri, and you were like showing off your arms, and I'm like, yo, Rangiri's the one that looks gangly and drawn.
I don't know about all
and
that.
And this dude looks like he's
I don't know about all
jacked.
that. Rangiri's a monster.
No, I know that. Sitting down, my eye test showed me something that if you both stood up.
You know what's funny? It's a funny lesson. I'm a little younger than you. I'm 48, but I did this case study on myself this year to say if I lift weights every day for 8 months and eat like a lot of protein, I'm mostly plant based, so it's kind of a little hard sometimes. But my friends say powered by hemp and tofu, right?
Yeah.
So I'm powered by hemp and tofu. I just work out every day and see what happens. And 8 months later, I gained 15 pounds. I'm lifting more than I lifted in my 20s.
And how old are you?
48.
Thank you. That's ridiculous.
So it's possible.
But you got a 1-person sample size that shows
it showed that it's actually possible. I didn't know it was possible. I mean, I was typically about 198 the last 5 years, and I'm about 215.
Right.
So,
which is what I am. I'm 215.
Yeah, and it's funny how that journey for me was inspired by Chase Budinger and Miles Evans, though. I was with them on the road. It was like we were getting ready for the season in January, and I looked at the guys and I went, I feel like I need to work out more to keep up with you guys. That I feel like if I don't put the work in, that you're not gonna respect, like, that I belong as part of the team. Like, I want to show you that I am putting work in too.
Amen.
In a physical way. And so I just took this journey, and it's been really, I've been sharing it with some of my friends. Evan, Corey, and I have a laugh about it all the time because I'm not a pro athlete, and I never have been, and I've never been really that strong.
So what?
But I share with them, like, I was deadlifting 295 recently, and
how many of these pro athletes look like
I don't know,
homely
and
out of shape?
They're incredible to me, but I just want to feel like I can make a journey in a physical way, right? Being mostly a cerebral guy for my whole life, so it's interesting. Doubt. Anyway, what's our deal?
So the last one I wanted to do, we were talking about defining moments, like that guy won over the ball out, and that could have made Trevor go one way or the other, and that went one way. So I'm gonna give you a second defining moment that might be inspired by what I'm gonna say next. The Partains had this momentum in the qualifier. I'm taking you guys back to Hermosa Beach 2017.
Yes.
And the crowd got a little bit bigger. And then the third round, they faced Matt Motter and his coach at the time, or coach later, Playcheck.
Playcheck, yeah.
So they beat Playcheck and Motter 2-0.
That's a great win.
Which, by the way, it wasn't even a play-in. That was the third round.
No, but that's a great win.
It is a great win. That's what I'm saying. It was an impressive
Matt
win.
Motter smashes balls.
Some of the best matches I've ever seen. Like, I remember Baranek and Prosser against Paul Lotman and Olsen, which, by the way, wasn't a play-in.
Right.
We saw Rafa Rodriguez and McCulloch against Kame Shalk and Pretty, which was the second round.
It's amazing. That's what's so sad about not having tournaments, but keep going.
So they use this momentum. They get to the main draw, and there's this huge crowd size. And Jeff and I are working at Endless Summer together, and I'm coaching, of course, and I'm doing some work with him.
Yep.
And I warned him.
Him and Dirty Mike
Brunstein. I warned him. I didn't see Brunstein, but the night before, Jeff was staying with me.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff was living across the street.
Oh,
and we're watching video, and I'm like, you really got to watch this kid. He's like, I've seen it before. And I'm
like, they're 15.
But I'm like, I'm not talking about the kids. I'm talking about the other. I'm talking about the buzz that's around this. Yeah. And if you remember, and guys, watch the video, watch the Partains versus whatever. They were set up in front of the hotel. Yep. So the people on the balcony already had the money shot. Right?
It was right there in front of the Strand House Hotel. It was right on that Strand side court in Hermosa.
And what they did was the bathroom behind the courts. Yep. They were setting up beach chairs on top of the bathroom. So you had a row of people sitting, you had a row of people standing, and then above them you had a row of people sitting on beach chairs and a row of people standing behind them. Yep. So the shot looks like it's a mini stadium court, the way they set it up.
And we're heckling and Hefe like crazy.
And very, very rarely do I highlight defining moments in a loss. They're rare. Yeah. And Miles, as he started to level up, him and his brother were showing himself like he can be more than just
Oh, dude,
a
it was
15-year-old getting it in.
Yeah, it was
they were
insane.
saved by the scoring freeze.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Samuels and Brunston
Right.
were saved
The freeze,
by the scoring
yeah,
freeze.
that
It was
freeze,
14-11.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Game 3.
That was just watching those two kids play. Though was just, I mean, it changed my perception. You know, it's a funny thing. It kind of reminded me of there was a time when Larry Witt and Mark Williams in the late '90s were playing at the same, a little bit older, 17 and 18,
Right,
and doing not quite the level of Miles and Marcus, but it's the same idea. Hitting perfect line shots in the corner, passing and setting every ball perfectly, running a few options, you know, just serving really intelligently. But these two kids brought a cerebral nature to the game, and most, like Jeff Samuels is like, I'm gonna bounce balls on your head.
yeah.
Right? I'm gonna block, I'm gonna be this physical
You just
beast.
struck the child, Jeff.
Yeah.
You just struck the
I
child.
know, I'm gonna be this physical beast. But Miles and Marcus, that didn't matter to them.
No.
I don't care how many balls you bounce. We're going to hit that perfect line shot in the corner again, over and over again.
And again, this is why they became the pioneer of the new wave of volleyball
Yeah.
players, because I said this before on previous podcasts, and I'll say it again.
Yeah.
Are there players that are more athletic than him at the time? Were there players that were taller, right? Were there players that jump higher and hit harder,
Still
right? But there are so many players that check all the boxes that he doesn't, but there he is. And there they are.
And isn't that what's great about beach volleyball? To me, is that it's a strategic game.
Yeah.
Right? The two biggest, strongest guys, like a Brower Mearson team,
Right.
that all they do is jump serve bombs and hit every ball, basically, they don't win all the time. In fact, they didn't win that much this year. They didn't even make the Olympics, right?
I also thought on another note, Taylor Crabb is a player that recovered from a defining moment where he failed. I bring you back 2018 Manhattan Beach. Phil and Nick up 1-0. He gets a dig, right? And he sees that cross court. He sees the 4-block switch, and his eyes just get big, and he's like, I'm going for it all, and he hits it out. Wow. And it just goes long. And then Phil and Nick got punched
Jake
awake.
Taylor,
you know how you get knocked out, but then someone hits you again, you get punched awake. So and then they eventually won that match.
Yeah.
But Taylor recovered from it. Took him a minute.
Yeah.
But Taylor recovered from that.
I mean, Taylor Crabb's he's just incredible. You just can't say enough about every skill he has. And this jumpy sand on the league, he's just smashing balls. It's funny, in my experience with the pro game, a lot of my thoughts go back to the early to mid 2000s. And with Rosie, there's a defining moment, in Vegas that most people know pretty well, the Vegas line. And I was sleeping in my car that weekend in Vegas outside the Hard Rock Hotel. Well, you sleep in your car if you don't have another place to sleep. You know what I'm saying?
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, so you're looking for something, but I'm standing underneath where the camera is, and watching Rosie just detonate this ball on Lambeau's block. He gets picked up by Jake.
I remember that. Oh
but
my God.
Up until that point, Rosie is an insane athlete who can occasionally maybe win a tournament. He wins like 2 tournaments in 3 years with Larry Witt, right? And he gets a couple finals. But he's really just a freak athlete. Jake Gibb decides to take him as a partner. Now remember, 2005, we're getting ready for that quad lead in 2008. So you've got Phil, you've got Jake, you've got Lambert, you've got a few like really elite blockers.
I remember
who are deciding who they want for defenders.
That's right. Lambert had to pick.
Lambert
had the pick of the leader.
And because Rosie says to me, I'm waiting to hear what Lambert's going to say.
Because everyone thought Karch.
Because Phil asked Rosie to play
before.
Huh. And Rosie said to Phil, I'm waiting in Chicago that year. And I'm waiting to see who Lambert picks. He thought maybe he could get Lambert. At that time, Phil, again, hadn't become Phil yet because he wasn't playing with Todd yet. He was still insane, but no one really knew at what level. So once Lambert picks Stein, Jake tries out Rosie in that Hard Rock finals because it was Jake and Lambert picking their partners. And he decides Rosie's going to work. And what happens? Rosie gets the partner that's going to give him the work ethic that makes him win the MVP of the World Tour in 2012, 6 years later. So you understand, like, there's a path and there are choices that get made. And in my experience, because Sean and I, Rosie and I, go a long way back, and he, to me, is one of the most amazing human beings ever, and comes from the most difficult background of maybe anyone I've ever known, and manages to become this incredible success. Yep. But that day in Vegas, changes his life, because now he can get Jake Gibb, who was the MVP, reigning MVP of the AVP.
That's right. Yep.
And then of course Todd goes and says, well, I guess I'll have to play with Phil, because he's, Sean Scott and him, and like it's, Phil's better. But it's interesting.
Didn't it work out for everybody though?
I think it worked out, except
Todd,
for Stein, who Lambert gets the knee injury and Stein never gets to play in the Olympics. Oh, he played in earlier Olympics.
We played, in Athens.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's like Stein was a freaking savage, and Lambert was the best pick at that time,
right?
And supposedly, it's so interesting.
And Rosie turned into the Pat Riley of beach volleyball. He gets you to the finals, and whether you win or lose is up to you and him. He's funny. Become like the Pat Riley.
I like that. He did, dude. Him and Trevor a bunch of finals. That's
transcended the Chase.
Him and even Chase made a finals, right? Yeah. But just that Ed Ratledge hitting like about 900 in that finals was tough.
Chase is what I call the scene of the crime player. Every time there's a finals, it's him against someone.
Chase is in there.
He's cracked the code.
It's weird how
the dude has cracked the code of always being.
By the way, you want to see an athlete, you should have seen Chase Budinger play volleyball when he was 20 years old. I mean, he was freaking crazy. At the Manhattan 6-man, his chest is over the net attacking the ball every time. He was the scariest hitter in the tournament. He had 2 big knee surgeries in the NBA that kind of ended his basketball career, and his verticality changed a little bit. But it's funny. He sent me a picture just the other day from the last league he played in. What would that have been? San Diego.
Yep.
And his chest is over that. Excuse my language again.
That's all right. We writing them down.
Write it down.
I'm on 213.
His chest is over the net as he's smashing them all. And I go, dang, Chase still got it. And I know he jumps high.
Right.
But it's interesting. Like, the athletes on this tour, this sport is really special.
Yeah.
You know, Taylor
He's
Sander,
runner-up for the dunk championship.
I mean,
right?
He won the high school dunk contest, runner-up in the NBA one, right? But you got like Taylor Sander. You have Phil is still dominating. You have all these incredible athletes, and they just don't get compensated like athletes in other sports with their ability level.
Right.
So what you and I hope for, and what all fans hope for, I think, is that eventually someone figures out this conundrum, which is beach volleyball, and gets the compensation where it belongs.
Boots on the ground helps. You know? I don't want to end this on a negative note, but there is a certain arrogance that thinks that people put on an event and they assume everyone knows and they assume everyone's going to come.
It's our job,
and
right?
I don't
to share
know.
It, right?
No, it's theirs too.
Right, but it's everybody.
I mean, we can do so much for free where you're outperforming the people that are supposed to be paid to do this, right?
Right.
So what I want to see is actual boots on the ground. I remember Kevin Barnett wore this freaking gold suit in Chicago, going around with a microphone talking to people. There's an example of a guy getting it in. And
that's getting it in.
And it was, and you know what? It's no wonder Chicago has one of the most fierce crowds out there, which actually eclipses New York. As much as I love New York, I got to give Chicago though. I remember Madison McKibben told me years ago. He says, I know you love New York, Jay, but I got to give it to Chicago. And I was like, dude, you're right.
They got the crowd that comes out.
Dude, you're right.
They do have the crowd that comes out. And they're not fickle.
That was his last good finish, too, right? Him and Riley took a fifth.
Like a Southern California crowd, right? A Southern California crowd can be a little fickle at times.
Yeah.
Right? We're kind of a little spoiled.
Well, Manhattan Beach is, again, it's the only tournament where the qualifier is packed.
Right.
Right?
That's true.
New York.
That's true.
And New York and
we do love a good qualifier here.
Yeah.
Because there's a story there.
Yes.
Right? That we like to see the young kids. We like to see the guys come in from different states. We like to see all that.
Guys, go on YouTube. Look up AVP top 5 qualifier matches the last 10 years. I did a compilation video of my top 5 qualifier
I'm going to go
matches.
check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we named 2 of them. Baranek.
Yeah, that's right. We did.
He was on some Eric Baranek was on some Spider-Man stuff with a then cancer survivor.
Yeah.
You want to talk about telling stories?
Pross.
Nice.
Yeah, man, Pross is amazing.
Oh my God, I better
get some lunch.
Yeah, we got and we got to do more of this later because we didn't even talk about some of the fun venues you've been to, which is worth an extra 30 minutes.
The last Klagenfurt, I've been Stad 7 times. Some really interesting ones. Yeah,
man.
We'll do it at some point.
Hey, Keller, you're the man. All right,
you're the man,
so.
Jay.
Before we go, tell everybody what's the next big event you're going to. Just might want to instill.
So I'm real excited about some of the newer players. So I talked to James Shaw and Cam Shock, and I'm going to be traveling with them a little bit this fall.
Nice.
So I'll go down to Rio for the Elite 16.
They were on last week.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to Rio for the Elite 16 in 2 weeks, and then I'm gonna. Yeah, I saw that. I was stoked on Cam.
Sorry, you're talking. I didn't want to listen to
you.
Good.
And then we're gonna go out to China, to Haiku, and Chennai, India, Nuvali in the Philippines, and then I'll go to the World Tour Finals in Doha because I actually never gone to the World. I've been to Doha probably 25 times.
Okay.
I did some business there, but I want to go to the World Tour Finals. Just really witness
Heck
that
yeah.
firsthand. So it's
Bucket list, right?
I haven't traveled since the Olympics. It's been like 2 months. I've only been in America. It feels really weird. So I need to go.
And we didn't even talk about that. That's why you got to come back on. We'll bring
bro.
you plus one. Maybe bring you
Oh,
and Wexler. How about
dude.
Wexler can join us
Dude,
too?
Wex not killing it.
Yeah,
Right.
I got someone at Texas show, and she can handle this for us.
Yeah.
So, guys, listen. Ed Keller might love you guys, but I don't love any of you guys. In fact, I'm out of here. In fact, I'm hungry and tired and old and cranky. So, for all of you at home, for all of you on your iPads, for all of you on your iPhones, for all of you on your droids who run, and for all of you on your desktop who runs the world, old school. That's my man Ed Keller taking off the headset.
Yeah.
This is Jason Tobias keeping on the headset. This is the Option Podcast, episode 221 or 222. I'm gonna hit my music. You're gonna press stop after the music. Wait.
Okay.
And come check out the Option Podcast on optionvb.com. It's also available on iTunes and Spotify and on YouTube under the NY Varsity Sports handle. You're gonna love what you hear.